Now.
It's the mosaic.
So before gloves start popping.
Diving. He makes the catch.
And bats start cracking.
It is gone.
We bring you the voice of Bay Area baseball for the past 29 years.
As I always say, baseball reflects what life is all about.
This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie.
That's what we do. We talk ball.
On KNBR, the sports leader.
And good morning, everybody. It's Talkin' Baseball on this Sunday morning as we wrap up this next to last weekend of Major League Baseball for the San Francisco Giants in 2024. Big day today. We got the Giant game coming up at 11 o'clock today. Blake Snell is on the hill today, Mr. Unhittable. Will he stay? Will he not? Is he going to opt out? What kind of a game will he give you today against a Kansas City team that does not score many runs? They've gone 40 innings and scored about 4 runs. And we've seen this before with the Giants. We saw it with the Orioles. We've seen it with Seattle. We've seen it with Detroit. There are a lot of teams not hitting in Major League Baseball, but yet they're still in the race because they've got pitching and bullpens, and we'll see what happens today. But Seth Lugo goes today for Kansas City. You got to hand it to Kansas City. Come on, this is a team that lost 106 games last year. And right now, here we are. It's Sunday, September the 22nd, and if play stopped today, Kansas City has got the second wild card in the American League. Now, by next Sunday, who knows what's going to happen in this wild card race in the American League. It is something else. But right now, this 106-loss team from last year is in a playoff position, and they've got pitching. Bullpen is so-so, a little bit better now, but they just don't hit a lot. But they've got a superstar in Bobby Witt, and they've got, unfortunately, a bad injury to Pasquantino, my guy, that has cost them, and Sal Perez has had a real slow series for the Royals against the Giants. So they haven't scored many runs, and yesterday they got shut out 9-0. But as play starts today, this is an interesting game for Kansas City. Right now they are 82-73. Minnesota got rained out yesterday. They play a doubleheader at Fenway Park. 2 games today in Fenway Park for the Minnesota Twins. They are 81-73, a half a game behind Kansas City. So Kansas City loses today. Minnesota takes a doubleheader from Boston. And, boy, things are going to change quickly. And with all that going on, the Orioles, who look like they're going to have that number 4 spot because Kansas City is losing and whittling down that magic number, even though the Orioles lose a very exciting game yesterday to Detroit. If you haven't seen the highlights of that one, take a look at the 9th and 10th inning for the Tigers' defense. And that Bo Brisky, who we saw against the Giants, remember he was the opener? Then they came back with, Herter, the lefty, and won that Sunday game against the Giants. He shut the door last night for the Tigers, and the Tigers won. They are one game behind Kansas City, and everyone's got 7 to play. Everyone plays today. Then there's 2 series coming up this week, and it ends next Sunday when all the games start at noon. We're on 8 a.m. next Sunday, and I'll be up in the bunker doing that. And on Saturday, we'll be out. Sandra will be with us, and a couple other surprise guests, and we'll be out at 58 Social next Saturday. The other team is Seattle. Seattle is a game and a half behind Minnesota, and it depends what happens with Minnesota today with the Red Sox, and we'll see. Pablo Lopez is going today, and Zebby Matthews, one of those phenoms who doesn't walk anybody, and is giving him a couple of good games for Minnesota. Nick Pivetta and Cutter Crawford going for Boston. But Seattle's got the pitching. This is such a horse race. It's at one gallop at a time, coming down the stretch. It's really fascinating for me. But Seattle's got the pitching, and they've got really good pitching, great starting pitching, and Julio Rodriguez has awoken. He got another couple of home runs yesterday. He's got 8 hits and 14 at-bats against Texas in this series. He's carrying the Seattle Mariners. Now they're scoring some runs, and he's hitting. and they're getting their pitching. That pitching, Wu goes today for them. He's been fabulous against Haney for Texas. So Seattle wins out. They could be in the wild card race, and they could do some damage in the playoffs because they've got pitching. So this is really, really a big day of baseball, and it is in Kansas City for the Giants and the Royals. This is a huge game for the Royals today. Huge. As they've lost the first two. Yesterday was all Giants. It was pretty good. 9-0 over the Royals. And as I said, they haven't scored many runs anyway. But Landon Roop and Glen Kuiper will be with us. Of course, will be with us later. We'll talk about Roop and Bruce Jenkins as well. And Joe Sheen will be with us today. This Landon Roop, what can I say? I mean, he goes out there, and yesterday 5 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. He had control. He's got a changeup. He's got a curveball. He's got a fastball. He's putting it where he wants to put it. A little bit of a struggle with his command, just a little bit. But, boy, when you look at next year, and this is going to be fascinating. I'm going to do this YouTube channel. We're going to get it together next week or so. And I'm going to use it and talk baseball with you. And then we'll announce it on Twitter and all that stuff. And you can subscribe to it, and you'll know when we're on. But we're going to do something every week about baseball, about the playoffs, about the Giants and all that. Because I know the airwaves are saturated with 49er talk, which is fabulous. Nobody does it better than Larry and different people who are on there. Larry works as hard as anybody. But there's a spot for baseball, and I'm going to do that. And we'll be talking about Robbie Ray and Blake Snell, who goes today, and also Landon Roop and what he did yesterday for the Giants. He's 1-1 now. I guess that's his first major league win. Mason Black got his first major league win on Friday night. Brady Singer got knocked around, and today they go to Lugo. He's their guy, 34 years old, free agent, came over from San Diego. Bob Melvin knows him really well. 16-8 this year until Skubal went nuts for Detroit. Lugo was going to be the Cy Young Award winner in the American League. He's got a 305 earned run average. The whip is 111. In 100 innings pitched at home, he's only given up 8 home runs, which may be a good sign for Kansas City after the barrage that the Giants put on the Royals yesterday. But in September, 3 games, 18 innings, 17 hits. This is what he does. 5 runs, a homer, 3 walks, 18 strikeouts. His 96th Major League start. He was a reliever for a while with the Mets. And then Bob Melvin made him a starter with San Diego. They signed him, and that turned his career around. 31 games for him. He's another one of those guys. He takes the ball just like a Logan Webb. 32nd start coming up. How about that? 16 homers in 197 innings. So he's got more innings pitched than Webb this year. But lefties, righties, really doesn't matter. Lefties with 7 homers hit him a little better. Righties have 9 homers against him. Runners in scoring position, he's tough, 209, 2 out, 194. Giants who have hit him before, Encarnacion's taken him deep. He's 1 for 1 with a homer. Fitzgerald 1 for 3. Wade 1 for 8. Yaz 1 for 9. Conforto 0 for 5. Cano 1 for 3 and Bailey 0 for 4. So Lugo's had some success against the Giants. For Blake Snell today, I just say it's Blake Snell. You know what's coming. He is unhittable. And if he's got his command of that breaking pitch and he's comfortable with the fastball, he is a lot of fun to watch. And until that first hit happens, you don't know what's going to happen in this game. He's capable of a no-hitter every time out. You never know. 3 games in September for Blake Snell, 12 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 runs, no homers, 6 walks, 22 strikeouts. The season stats, I don't care about him. It's everything that he's done since he's come back from the injury. Lefties at 109 against them. How about that? Righties 191, first pitch 189. All the numbers are good. There's really nothing bad against him. First time through, second time through, third time through, at least 262. You can get to him a little bit. But 13 stolen bases, 3 caught stealing. The Royals have speed, but you got to get on. You can't steal first base. But July, August, and September, he's made 13 starts. This is since coming back from the injury. He's 4-0, and it's just I go up and down the list. I can't believe it. DeYoung 1 for 9, Frazier nothing, Grossman 4 for 9, Gurriel 7 for 24. Hampson can hit a fastball. That's the guy who almost won the game Friday night, 2 for 16. Sal Perez 3 for 6, Tommy Pham 1 for 9, Renfroe 1 for 3. This is going to be a good game today. I think this will be a good game today, and it's a very important game for Kansas City to win. They have lost, as I said, 6 straight, and they're 7-15 in their last 22. Runners in scoring position in the 2 games for Kansas City, 0 for 15. And that's the deal. And that's the Giants have shut down the other team. Giants have pitched, and I don't care what anyone says, they've pitched all year long. It's been up and down, but they have generally give you a good game on the hill. It's the hitting. And, of course, by the end of the season, they're eliminated, they're swinging, they're loose, everyone's happy, and they're hitting home runs and scoring some runs, and it's a little bit easier. But we'll see what's going to happen next year. This is going to be a topic that we're going to talk about all winter, how they're going to strengthen this offense. And I know, look, Mike Yastrzemski hitting the ball like crazy in September. It's terrific. I'm glad. But the other 5 months, what happened? And that's what you got to deal with. That's player evaluation, which is critical for this ball club. And I said that with Farhan. The biggest thing he's got is how to evaluate these players like a Mason Black or Landon Roop. Sean Jelly is another one. Eric Miller, Taylor Rogers, Robbie Ray, Hicks. What are you going to do with him with the sore shoulder? There are a lot of questions that have to be evaluated. That's why I want to see Billy Owens become part of the San Francisco Giants. I think he's the best evaluator in baseball, especially with the minor leaguers. Well, the Giants are 4-1 on this trip. They got a shot today to square their record against the American League. They'll be 23-23 if they can win. They're handling the Central. They're 9-5 on the road, 35-42 with 4 more to go. And I'll see the Monday-Tuesday games in Arizona. Since the break, they're even, Steven, 29-29. And September now with this little run, the 4 of 5 here on the trip, they're now 8-10. And 3 for 4 with runners in scoring position. A lot of things going on. Luciano's been optioned out. He's supposed to, I guess, down here in Arizona. They're teaching him how to play the outfield here. I don't know. There's so many stories. Grant Brisbee had one yesterday. Everyone's got an opinion on this on the internet as well, and I do too. I think you just got to let this kid play somewhere. Do you jam him into the fall league or the instructional league or down in Arizona now to teach him, now you're a left fielder. Tomorrow, go get a glove and go to the outfield. I don't know. It just seems to me that they're sort of panicking with him. Let the kid relax. He's had a season. He can hit. He can swing the bat. There's no question. But let him comfortably learn a position if that's what you want to do. I don't know. I think they should have avoided this whole thing with Luciano yesterday. That's my opinion. All right. More coming up. A lot of drama in the Bay Area and a lot of drama at the Coliseum last night. 33,000 there. The Yanks win 10-0. Judge hits his 54th. Stanton hit one about 5 miles last night. As I said, the Yanks win 10-0 behind Rodon. Ken Korak, the voice, the captain of the Oakland Athletics, will join us and talk about some of that drama that's going on in Oakland in this last homestand of the Oakland Athletics. So we'll do that and more when we come back right after this on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship. Vance Bridge Bank delivers their clients full relationship banking, including treasury management solutions and global market services. Bridge Bank offers financing solutions to businesses for their working capital, equipment, and real estate needs. This is very important in today's world. Fred Voss is the Senior Managing Director of Bridge Bank's commercial lending efforts in Northern California. He has commercial banking teams in San Jose with Jesse Garcia, San Francisco, Oakland, Cheadle, Cordova, and in Pleasanton. Bridge Bank, it's like banking at home. I can't say enough about it.
Giants fans, there's no better way to set the game day table than talking baseball with Marty Laurie. Marty keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
Well, I love Sunday baseball. There's nothing like it. It's a day just to reflect on baseball and these good pennant races and what is coming up in October. This is the crown jewel of baseball. Joining us, he is the captain, Ken Korak. He is the play-by-play voice of the Oakland Athletics. Captain, how are you this morning?
I'm well, Marty. It's early, man, but it's great to be with you.
Well, it's great to talk baseball with you. It really is. And
like you said, Sunday baseball, there's nothing like it.
Right? Come on. It's a day you sit back and you look at the batting averages and you look at Bobby Witt hitting .334. And, hey, you saw Judge hit 54 last night. How about that?
Yeah, and then Stanton hit one that was even longer. I can't believe how the bat speed that Stanton generates, Marty. We were talking on the broadcast last night that if you're an infielder like a shortstop or third baseman, you need catcher's gear out there. You need shin guards and a chest protector. He hits the ball hard.
And a cup.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, but it's been a tough series for the A's so far. The Friday night game was a great game that the Yankees won in the 10th inning. Kind of forgettable last night. It was 10-0, but as you know, there's been a tremendous amount of energy and a full range of emotions at the Coliseum so far.
Yeah, well, I use the word drama. There's so many ups and downs of how the fans feel, but what drama around the ballpark. And look, this is your last homestand. I was thinking about it. You and I met, I think, in '96, right? Wasn't that your first year with the A's?
Yeah, my first year was '96, yeah.
And that was my first year of KECG. That's when I came out. Come on, the little 5-watt station that I could scream louder than it, than the distance that it went. But I used to come out with the recorder and tape recorder, and Jay Alvis and I were doing it together. And there you were in '96, and so you look at that and where this franchise has gone. You've seen some amazing things at the ballpark.
Well, I used to go to the Coliseum, as you know, Marty, as just trying to get a job in broadcasting in the late 70s, and I would sit in the stands at the Coliseum in the latter days of the Finley era. You'd have whole sections to yourself back in like 78, 79. So I was making audition tapes out there. John Miller, by the way, did the same thing. Of course, as you know, John is from Hayward, but there's been a tremendous amount of history, like you said, and a lot of it is intertwined with the Yankees. So I think it's appropriate that the Yankees are here, and not only they've met 4 times in the postseason, beginning in '81, then 2000, 2001, the division series, the wild card in '18. But my broadcast partner Vince Catroni and I were reflecting last night on a series that I know you remember very well in August of 2001. When Jason Giambi hit that dramatic home run off of Mike Stanton down the right field line in the bottom of the 9th inning to give the A's a 4-2 win over the Yankees and seal their 11th straight win. One of the greatest Bill King calls of all time, and only he could do it in the spur of the moment. That Jason Giambi is the man in capital letters. So it's not just the postseason. There have been some really incredible regular season series the A's have had against the Yankees. So we've been trying to relive some of that history, not just the Yankees, but obviously every team that's come to the Coliseum, reflecting back on the fact that those were the last meetings ever in Oakland between the A's and those ball clubs.
Well, I've been going there since '72, and I've said it on the show. Those Monday night, the half-price nights on Monday night, Vita would pitch, and they'd have 50,000. And I'd be sitting down the right field line, and then the Orioles and the A's would play those playoff series. I saw Campy hit the home run off Cuellar to win a game. I saw Brooks Robinson. I saw Etchebarren hit a 3-run homer. I couldn't believe it. I think it was off Vita to tie a game up. Heck, the Red Sox. How about the Red Sox series in '75? And
also the division series in 2003 and the 12th inning bunt by Ramon Hernandez down the left field line that won that game.
Yeah, no, it's incredible the things that we've seen out there. I think of the Yankees. I think of Scudero hitting the ball down the left field line off Mariano Rivera. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
How about that one?
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt. And obviously the Jeter flip, with the most devastating play in Oakland ever, right? And only rivaled perhaps in A's history by the Gibson home run at Dodger Stadium in the World Series. And it's just kind of serendipity that we happen to be there. I call the Jeter flip play. It's part of history, but it's a play that A's fans would like to forget, I'm sure.
How about Manny Ramirez homering off Zito? And turning that.
Yeah, that was the 5th game in '03, and Zito against Pedro Martinez. So Yeah, those were devastating losses for the A's, but also a great part of history when you consider that you got a fifth game of a playoff series in an electric atmosphere at a ballpark, and you have pitchers like Zito and Pedro Martinez going against each other. So, disappointing, but still great drama, like you said. You used the drama earlier today, and that's apropos.
Yeah, come on, Gil Heredia and Terrence Long looking in the sun, and he couldn't see the ball. And Stanton coming in, and Joe Torre brought him in the fourth inning in Game 5.
That was right. Yeah, exactly right.
Oh,
He just fell behind early and then mounted a comeback, and yeah, for sure, Marty.
And I'll tell you the other one. People ask me about dramatic games I've seen, and I've seen a lot of baseball in my time.
Just
in
a
person.
little bit, just a couple of games.
In my time, I truly have. But and I've watched it, listened to it. But for me, it was the Red Sox. It was Macha's first or second year, I guess. And that last game where he pinch hits for Jermaine Dye, remember that? And Terrence Long.
Yeah.
And Derek Rose on the
2000.
mound.
Yeah, that was 2003. That was the fifth game in 2003.
That's the most nervous I've ever been. I couldn't watch. I had to turn around. That's how nervous I was at the end of that game. You
weren't alone. You weren't alone in feeling that at the ballpark.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
Marty, for sure. Yeah.
No, you couldn't turn around. I could.
Right.
You had to watch it. And Bill, right? Bill was still there then, wasn't he?
Yeah, Bill's last year was 2005. Yeah. The A's had a good team in 2005. Didn't make it, but we're going to Seattle to finish the season this year, next weekend. And Bill's last game was a Sunday game against the Mariners in 2005.
So what's it like out there for you? And I use the word drama, but this is it. This is the last homestand of the Oakland Athletics. They're gone. This is going to happen. Yeah. So what is it like for you? And you have such responsibility to the fans to bring that emotion out so people are sitting at home hear it and feel it.
The most important thing for me, Marty, is just to feel it and feel the emotion. I haven't scripted anything yet, but as I said, we've been trying to relive some of the history, and we'll do that again when the Rangers come in, because the A's had that incredible run down the stretch in the last game of the season in 2012. The only day the A's were in first place that year, and Vince's call, Hamilton drops the ball, and fortuitous for the A's that the last game of the year in 12 was a day game, and the sun was shining brightly, but it is, and there's a sense of melancholy for sure, Marty. And it's not just the 29 years that I've done the games for the A's. I consider the A's to be my hometown team, even though I grew up in L.A., but I moved here in 1979, so I've spent more time in the Bay Area and here in the East Bay than any other place I've lived, and so it's difficult. There's no question. There are a whole range of emotions. I've also tried to spend as much time with people and just talk to people, Marty, like the other day, a bunch of the security guards and people that that go back to the days when you were there and before you and I started working for the ball club. So, and people you probably won't ever see again that were faces that you saw in people you talked to for all these years. And it's not just that a ball club is part of a community. There's a community that develops within a ballpark. And people that have been going to games for years, and fathers and sons and daughters, and people that, maybe 30 years ago you bought a season ticket, and then for all these years you sat next to those same folks. And so there is a family and a community that develops within a fan base as well, Marty.
Yeah, it's well, I can say it, you can't, but it is so unfortunate to lose this franchise that has such history and has such loyal fans for whatever this is the cause of. It's just not worth it on balance for me. It's just not. And
well, it's hard. There's no question. It's difficult. There's no question.
Yeah. It is. It's just it's sickening that this has to happen and couldn't be resolved. Let's put it that way. We can knock the Coliseum. We know it. You've been there. You've seen the possum and all the other crazy stuff that's gone on there. It's still a ballpark. and it's still a place that with memories that people like to go to. And if it was done properly over all these years, it would still be here. So I blame it on the business more than the fans or anything else. And that's
no, and I think the fans, and I think a big part of this for us is to salute the fans.
Yeah.
And how much they've meant to not only the organization, but to me personally. If I hadn't had the support from the fan base, I wouldn't have been here for 3 decades, Marty. So we owe a huge debt of gratitude to the fans.
Well, someone asked me the other day, and I didn't have time to do a little hit for KPIX about Crazy George. Remember Crazy George?
Yeah, the Wave. Yeah, the Wave for sure. And the banjo guy was at the ballpark last night, right? So there's there's an irreverent streak that is kind of characterized the personality of the Coliseum over all these years.
Just so people understand, the banjo guy has a beanie with a propeller on top.
Right, and somebody said that
and a cape.
It was on your show, right, that he patented that and he made a lot of money on it. Or maybe it was David Feldman who told me that. I don't know.
Well, if he made a lot of money, if he made a lot of money, he's hiding it. Well, let's put it that way.
Well, we've had some creatures out there for sure, you know.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about.
It's been fun. It's been great. So we're trying to reflect back on that and also enjoy these last few games because we're not going to be there again after Thursday.
Yeah, what's last night? 33,000. What do you expect today? Is it?
I think they're looking at 30 or more for every one of the last games.
Okay.
I don't know that we'll hit 33 today, but I think over 30 on Tuesday night. The A's are off tomorrow, but then Tuesday night, Wednesday night, huge crowd obviously for the last game on Thursday.
Yeah, is Thursday a night game?
Thursday's a day game.
A day game Thursday. Okay.
It's the tradition of day baseball at the Coliseum, the midweek games. Then we're flying after the game to go up to Seattle to finish the series after Thursday.
A ridiculous amount of history. Ridiculous amount. It's not just a couple of games. You could just name a year, and something comes up. We haven't even talked about Ricky Henderson and Carney and these guys. So you've seen so much out there.
Carney's going to be at the ballpark today. The A's are having one of the great things the A's have done this year, among other things, is really embrace their history.
Yeah,
we had the reunion of the '74 World Series team, had the A's Hall of Fame ceremony, and among others, Bill King, obviously posthumously, was inducted into the A's Hall of Fame, and then almost every Sunday, they've brought back a bunch of the former players, and they've been out in the East Side Club, and they'll be out there today signing autographs. And Miguel Tejada, Terry Steinbach, and Carney will be out there today beginning at 11:35, and that's really gone over well with the fans. And I think the former players have really enjoyed coming back this year, Marty. It's been emotional for them, and they've enjoyed that interaction with the fans. And we've had so many of them on the air on A's Radio and A's Cast this year.
Well, is Duke Shire back there? Does he come?
I haven't seen Duke Shire. He has that curveball, Marty. And,
Duke Shire throws 88. I want a guy who throws 99. I got a guy who throws 88. The great.
That's your Maka impression, but we're talking about Justin Duscher, who made an All-Star team for the American League once as a reliever and once as a starting.
He was terrific. Come on. He was terrific. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't bring Mock back or Art Howe,
Yeah, I'm not sure what went on behind the scenes, but it's really been great to see Tejada out there because we haven't really seen Miguel since he retired as a player.
Yeah, and we saw him here.
And Miguel going in the A's Hall of Fame as well, and it was that was really an emotional day. Canseco broke down as well. He barely got through the end of his speech.
Nope, and he didn't get hit in the head with a ball either. So
no, but it's been really that's been an important part of this year.
It never stops. It never stops. It never stops. It can go on forever. Well, I had Brody Brazil on yesterday. He said Clay Wood said, "Take as much dirt as you want." Are you going to take some dirt?
I don't know. I'm pondering trying to clean out the broadcast booth. Yeah, probably. But the first thing is after 29 years, I don't even know all the things that I've left in the booth. In that little cupboard that we have back there, and there's that refrigerator where You used to bring the bagels and the cream cheese every Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
There's almost 30 years worth of stuff that I've been dreading trying to sift through all that stuff. And what's going to get thrown out? What's going to go home?
All right. Well, enjoy it. You're doing it. Thank God they have you there and Vinny and Johnny and everybody else. So you're doing a great job, and I feel for everybody. And the memories of the Oakland Athletics, however this thing ends up, will never, ever be equaled. Never for a franchise. They're pretty good.
Well, we'll try to do it right the rest of the way, Marty. I appreciate
know
it.
you will.
We'll try to strike the right zone if we can.
All right. Have a good afternoon, and we'll catch up. Thanks.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for having me.
All right. There's the captain, Ken Korak. Boy, what a responsibility to wrap up a franchise. How about that broadcast on Thursday, a day game? All right. More coming up. Glen Kuiper joins us next right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
It's time for an update from River Islands in Lathrop, Northern California's fastest growing master planned community. River Islands is truly remarkable. It really is. Always welcoming quality home builders, bringing in a wide variety of home styles. Right now, the community is celebrating a whole series of grand openings, introducing all new model homes in neighborhoods, on lakes, and near parks and trails. And there's even more to the River Islands story. School's in session at the 3 charter elementary schools and now at River Islands High School. The Boathouse Restaurant, I love it, serves lunch and dinner overlooking one of the community's 15 lakes. Champions Park just opened, joining a dozen other parks and playing fields. Add to that a lifestyle where the great indoors rivals the best of the great outdoors. And you can see that it's all coming together in one place, and that's River Islands. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands? Check it out at riverislands.com. You know it sure is for me.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Fans, Priest Ranch Wines has a great offer happening. They offer 2-bottle, 3-bottle, or 6-bottle gift sets for the wine lover on everyone's list. Whether it's for a birthday, corporate gift, or a holiday celebration, Priest Ranch has the perfect gift. Now, for a limited time, you can use the code MARTY, M-A-R-T-Y, for 10% off of all the gift sets through the end of October. So go to priestranchwines.com to explore this offer. It's absolutely terrific.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talking Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Hi, fans. It's great to have you back with us on this Sunday morning as we get ready for Giants baseball. The Giants in Kansas City. We're joined by Glen Kuiper. Glenn, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Marty. We're running out of time, you and I. Our Sunday chats, which I've certainly enjoyed all year, but we only got a couple left.
I know. We got today and next week early again. We got an 8 a.m. start next week as all the teams, all the games start at noon next week, so got to deal with that as well. But I always say this, it's the end of the season, and, we don't want to go overboard in September, but the Giants have had a very nice road trip against a couple of teams that are kind of slumping right now, but the Giants are getting it done.
Well, it's nice to see them, just playing good baseball, really, which they have. They did a nice job in Baltimore and could have easily swept them. You have your best reliever on the mound, and you feel like you're going to get to extra innings in that last game. And then they played great in Kansas City, holding a Royals team that has scored a lot of runs this year, but you've held them to one run, in a couple games. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So they do deserve some credit. They're playing hard down the stretch, and the record's not what they want. But I think the manager gets a lot of credit for that too, as he should. But yeah, they're playing good baseball, and it is nice to see, even though it is too late.
What do you think of the ballpark in Kansas City? A lot of 5 home runs yesterday. I brought it up on the show in the old days, and I'm sure you remember it, of the artificial turf. The ball would be going around like a hockey rink, around the corners and all that stuff. What do you think of that ballpark? Because I know they want a new one. It got voted down. What do you think about the KC ballpark?
I always actually liked it. It's it got redone a little bit, maybe 10 years ago for the All-Star game. But as far as just the park itself, it's been around quite a while, but it doesn't look that way. It still looks nice. It's in good shape. It looks like a nice place to watch a game. The atmosphere is pretty good. They got good fans there. So I like the place. It's not downtown. It's actually really, and you've been there, Marty, it's the exact opposite of downtown. It's really out a little ways, right off the freeway. You can see the freeway, when you're sitting out there watching the game. But, it's a tailgate place. There's huge parking lots because it's right next to the Chiefs Stadium. So, if you're one of those people who loves a downtown ballpark, well, that's not it. But just from a park itself, it's very nice, and I always enjoy going there. Last time I was there, it wasn't so great, but that's a different story. But it is a very nice place, and I always enjoyed very much doing games there.
No, I know you did, and I know you enjoyed Kansas City a lot. We had Evan Webeck on yesterday talking about the food, and he sent me a picture of this barbecue sandwich with provolone on it and an onion ring, and I said to myself, not for me, but boy, he knocked it down. What about you, the food?
Well, you go to those Midwest ballparks, Marty, and they will throw some food at you, and you feel like, you really should try it, right? And it's always really good, and it's not healthy for you, and it's a lot, but it's always really good. And you sort of get that feeling like, well, I'm in the Midwest, I got to try this stuff. And Kansas City's no different. Of course, they got the great, barbecue and that stuff. But that's what part of the reason that makes it fun, I think, going to these different ballparks is they all have their own personality and they all have, their own characteristics and they all have their own food. So why not, try a little bit of everything? But Kansas City's a good stop. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, they have their own heroes. George Brett's always around.
Yep.
I know they show him all the time. How did Ray Fosse deal with Kansas City? Because Ray was a little bit of a foodie, and he was a dessert guy. But there's George Brett. What was Ray like in Kansas City?
Well, Ray was – I really enjoyed, working with Ray for, many, many, many different reasons. But he was a lot of fun going to these other ballparks because he had so many stories about – but playing in that city, not always that ballpark, but when we go to Kansas City, he would talk about, the old ballpark, Municipal Stadium, where he played. In fact, I think he made his major league debut in Municipal Stadium in Kansas City, the old place where the Casey Hayes used to play. And so he'd have these great stories about when he was a really young player playing there. And then, when he got into the 70s, and now you're playing a Royals team that was starting to get really good. So he was great going to all those cities, but there were certain ones where he had more stories than others. But he liked Kansas City a lot because he had a little feeling there because it was where he made his major league debut.
Yeah, George Brett's always around, isn't he? Number 5.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You see him in the booth a lot. You see him up in a box a lot. And the Royals Museum is right out there in left field. It's got his number out front in baseballs, which is pretty cool. So it's just a good vibe and it's a good feel. And I'm glad that they're a successful team now again, the Royals.
Well, they lost 106 last year, and they turn it around. And isn't it something about? I was saying to Raph about going down the stretch. That type of baseball. The cream rises to the top. We've got the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Yankees and Cleveland and, Houston coming back. But the rest of them, that race to the finish, it's like a horse race and those strides, 1 stride, 2 strides back with 100 yards to go. And that's what we have here with Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, Seattle. It's wild going down the stretch here.
Well, and what I like to do too, Marty, is you kind of sit back and you watch it all. But you find yourself kind of keeping an eye on teams that maybe are younger teams. How are they reacting? Teams that haven't been there in a while, like the Royals, who we're talking about.
Yeah,
like the Tigers. The Tigers are right there. They're battling the Twins, and the Orioles are back. Obviously, they had a great year last year. They're going to be in postseason again this year. So that's what I get excited about, is seeing teams that haven't been in a while, and they have now these young players that you kind of hope get to the postseason. Because I want to see Bobby Witt Jr. play. That doesn't mean I'm sitting here cheering for the Royals, but here's one of the best players in baseball who's in an MVP talk when you start throwing names out there. Obviously, Judge is probably going to win, but those are guys that you kind of hope to see in the postseason because you haven't seen him before. So there's all these stories, like you're saying, Marty, and this week is going to be good because you have that AL wild card chase where there's really 4 teams, and the Mariners are still in it. But you still got the Mets and the Braves. They're going to play a 3-game series this week. You got the Dodgers and the Padres. They're going to play a 3-game series this week. So this is a great week for baseball. And even though there's not a lot of division races up for grabs anymore, there's still always series that are important. And it looks like, that Dodger Padre series and also that AL wild card are the 2 things to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I love this 1 week of baseball. Every game is important, and there are some good matchups that did work out. Glen Kuiper with us. What do you think about Roop? He was strong, a little stronger than Mason Black, who was really good. But, man, Roop, every time out, 5-6 innings, 4 innings, they don't touch him.
Well, he's become really interesting, hasn't he, Marty? I mean, if you remember you and I in spring training sitting in the dugout every day, and I can remember Bob Melvin and Brian Price in the front office of the Giants watching Roop, throw off the mound to hitters, before they started playing games, and they all were like, wow, this kid's got really good stuff. And he made the team out of spring training. So now he gets banged up a little bit, but I think what's intriguing about him, Marty, is when we saw him at the beginning of the year, he was throwing a real good, two-seam fastball and a really, really good breaking ball. But that was it, right, coming out of the bullpen. Yeah. But now, he's made 3 starts, and we're starting to see a changeup. We're starting to see a little slider. So all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, he has more than 2 pitches. He's got 3 or 4 pitches, and he's been a starter in the minor leagues. He's not a young guy. He pitched 4 years in college. He's 26. But I think there's some real intrigue there, Marty, for him going forward into next year. Could he be a starting pitcher candidate? Because I think the stuff is plenty good. He's got good movement. The breaking ball is a major out pitch. But I like him, and I know the Giants like him. They were talking highly of him way back in spring training. So I think he adds intrigue to the mix for 2025 as a starter, because you can never have too many starters. We found that out this year, Marty. But here's another young kid to go, with Birdsong and Harrison, and you got a couple kids in AAA that are close as starting pitchers. So the more young starters you can have, the better, whether you want to keep them or whether you want to dangle them out there in a trade. But I like the kid a lot. And if he can just, maybe cut down on his walks a little bit, which you say that about, most young pitchers. But I think he has a chance to maybe be a candidate for this rotation next year. And the more the merrier with that.
Well, more the merrier, but then one of the merrier may go. And I'm thinking, yeah, Robbie Ray. Now, Snell, I just don't know what's going to happen. But, Robbie Ray's on the hook here for $50 million for 2 years. And we've seen him. He's terrific. But, maybe if Farhan is here or whoever is calling the shots on this thing, maybe Robbie Ray gets moved. Maybe they try to move that salary and open a spot for someone like this.
Well, I don't discount anything any organizations do anymore. You just don't know. Jorge Soler was traded at the trade deadline. I would have never imagined that. I'm not saying it was a good trade or a bad trade. It wasn't something that you really thought would happen. I think I think Ray's going to be with the Giants next year. I don't know that anybody's going to grab a $50 million contract. I don't think he's going to opt out. Again, I don't know, but I hope he stays. I hope he's around because I think he's got some leadership qualities too, does Robbie Ray. And if you have him and Webb at the top of your rotation, you're in a decent spot, especially if you're going to go with younger guys. But you're right. Who knows? Who knows if somebody's desperate for a starter? But I like Robbie Ray, and I'd like to see him stick around. The Snell thing, we'd love to. Hey, wouldn't it be great? Keep Blake Snell, but I think if I was a betting man, I would probably guess that he's probably going to get out there in free agency, and somebody's going to wow him with money. And I don't think the Giants aren't afraid to pay the guy, but how far do you go? So it's interesting. We're going to have a lot to talk about, really all the way into spring training next year about how this team can get better and what they have to do to get better. But, they do have a lot of young arms. I think the bullpen's in a good spot. And then you just, you figure out who these starters are. But you do have candidates, Marty, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's funny you said that. I'm going to be starting this YouTube channel here momentarily next week or so. And that's what we'll do. And I want you to be on with me as we go through the winter, having discussions like this. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens. Let me ask you this. Donnie Walton couldn't get a couple of bunts down, and someone said, well, he's only tried 8 bunts in his last 6 years. You played professionally. Could you bunt?
Yeah, I was okay. I mean, I know my brother Dwayne was a good bunter, and I know he used to tell me, listen, if you want to play and you're not going to be hitting 35 home runs, you better be able to do little things. I remember him telling me that. And obviously that's the kind of player he was. But yeah, I had a pretty good idea how to bunt. I did. I wasn't afraid to drag bunt or push bunt just to try to do something. But it is a dying art. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, you sit back and you watch and you do shake your head a little bit. It's just not done much anymore, Marty. And then when you do ask a guy to do it, it doesn't always work. I think part of the problem is in the situation with like a Donnie Walton type player, right? Who's a marginal player, sometime in the big leagues, not going to hit a lot of home runs. I think as fans, you look at him and you say, he has to be able to bunt. Right. And I know we're picking on Donnie Walton here a little bit, but you know what I mean. If you're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark a ton, then you need to be able to bunt. Or if you have really good speed, like a Tyler Fitzgerald, who's got power as well, but still put some pressure on the defense. So I think things like that frustrate fans. It frustrates me. Those little things in baseball are starting to go away, and I don't think that's good because what's replacing quality small ball and doing little things to score runs is strikeouts. So to me, that's not a good trade-off. And I think that's what you're starting to see. You're starting to see less bunts, more strikeouts, less small ball. The good news is people are stealing bases. But, yeah, the problem is too, Marty, is then, the bunt doesn't get down, and then you end up, losing the game on a walk-off. And when you lose a close game, a 1 or 2 run game, you always look back at the little things that could have been done to win the game. And your first thought is, wow, if you got a bunt or two down, you would have scored another run or two. And but it needs to be done, but it's just not done very much anymore. And guys just don't do it, and that's too bad.
No, they got to practice it. It's got to be practiced a lot. Flan used to do it early morning. Wash would do it early morning at spring training all the time. But it's got to be done during the season. You got to practice it. And I will say this, in October, there will be some game in the playoffs where a bunt makes a difference, and you've got to play little ball in the playoffs. That's the way you get it done. So we'll see. All right, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Boy, I love having you on. This is going to be fun. We'll do this during the winter, and you've been great. No, you've been great all year long.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Marty, and good luck with the YouTube channel. It'll be a success like everything else you do. So, but I'll talk to you next Sunday. We'll wrap up this 2024 season.
Yeah, I've got the face for radio, so I'm going to see about YouTube.
All right, thanks, Marty.
All right, be well. All right, thanks, Glenn. All right, that is Glen Kuiper. More coming up right here. Bruce Jenkins next on the Sports Leader. It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, ROBBEN, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are known as the granny units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
Oh, you call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Gene Pagano checked in from the Tides up in Bodega Bay, and he said that with fall just around the corner, they're expecting some of the best weather of the year. Down at the Tides Wharf, there's something for everyone, from a great waterside restaurant serving the freshest seafood available to a fish market offering a wide selection of delicacies to take home, as well as a gift shop stocked with a fantastic variety of gifts, souvenirs, and clothing items. How about that? And just across Highway 1, there's the Inn at the Tides with its incredible bay views and the recently reopened Bayview Dining Room and its incredible menu that provide guests with a unique dining experience. Wow. So if you're looking to get away this fall for just a day or perhaps a little longer, remember the Tides Wharf and the Inn at the Tides in scenic Bodega Bay.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball today. They go for the sweep of the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City scored 4 runs in the last 40 innings. They are not hitting the ball, to put it mildly. Bruce Jenkins, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Marty. Doing well, thanks.
Well, Giants got loose yesterday in Kansas City. Yastrzemski, a couple of homers. Wade, a couple of homers. Oh, yeah, it's only one. Wade a couple, and Chapman a couple. How about it?
Well, I mean, I don't know where that comes from. I mean, it doesn't tell you anything at all, really. I mean, well, one thing that strikes me is that, I mean, I'm glad to see that it sounds like Wade has got his legs underneath him. He's had issues with that all season. It was really telling, but he hits a couple. But Chapman has he's hit 5 homers this month. That's what they need from him. He's not going to hit 320, but just some good power displays, to be reliable with guys on and just jack up the power a little bit. It seems like he's doing that now. We know he's got some holes in his swing, but these are things that can be fixed. So the Chapman was really encouraging, but more than all that was Roop for me, because that's something that where you're really looking at next year. And the rotation, is this guy going to fit? Right now you can't see why he wouldn't. His stuff is just that good. He was baffling people all day, and now they get Snell. I like the idea of a sweep. I think I'll go with the Giants on that.
Yeah, why not? It really, the rotation becomes interesting. And look, they're playing teams that are not hitting right now, but these are teams that have to win games. They still are major league teams, and anytime you have Adam Frazier leading off, it's going to be trouble for the offense. But let's face it, I mean, you got Roop, you got Black in there. Who knows what happened with Snell, but you got Birdsong. Hicks is back with the shoulder. You don't know what's going to happen there. Robbie Ray, is it worth it for $25 million? Should you try to move him, maybe for a hitter somewhere? They've got some real decisions to make on the pitching, where the pitching looked like it was kind of set, but I think there's too many of them right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you can never have too many. I mean, right? Just if they were to be counting on Harrison and Hicks right now, if they were in contention, they wouldn't have them. I mean, and those are guys who have been around more than your Birdsongs and your Bivens and Mason Black. But yeah, that's the good part about it. I mean, this has been a really crucial stretch for Birdsong, pitching against good teams, showing the team he can improve his command, and Roop is getting his chance. I mean, those are two guys that really project well into next season, even if they were to lose Snell and Ray, which I guess is a distinct possibility. So it's always good when you have good young arms coming up. I know Keaton Wynn, you can't rule him out either, and Black. So it's a positive. They're going to have it sounds like they're going to have good pitching no matter what in the rotation, and probably the bullpen as well.
Yep, absolutely, and I think it's a question of getting the offense straight.
Yeah,
that's going to be the big question. I don't know if you saw NBC Sports Bay Area, any of the shows yesterday, but they had a whole thing on Eldridge already. Bruce, they've got Eldridge basically checking into the VIA on Wednesday. Believe me, they got him everything but checking in with me at the VIA. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, he's got himself checking into the lineup, I think, at some point really soon, maybe like April. I mean, if not sooner. That's such a great story. I mean, from what I hear, everybody who's watched him is raving about his hitting, his approach, his attitude, his persona, just everything that he represents. A classic big, tall first baseman, left-handed hitter. But the numbers and the confidence are both there. There just doesn't seem to be any reason why he can't start working his way into the picture.
No, and it really solves some problem if he can, because that's going to be one of the positions that Wade says his legs are better, but come on, he's got what, 7 home runs, 8 home runs for the year.
Yeah, terrible year.
That's for the whole thing. So that can't happen again, and he doesn't look thrilled either for some reason. So, yeah, if Eldridge is capable, and I'll see him in the fall league, this is going to be interesting to see how this comes down. But what do you think about Kansas City, though, Bruce? I mean, other than Bobby Witt, boy, they just don't have much offense.
Yeah, you know, at the deadline they picked up Tommy Pham and Robbie Grossman and Gurriel, and they got DeJong and Lorenzen and all these guys, and said, wow, they really did a lot. They really actually did nothing. I mean, none of those guys, have any of those guys done anything when they have been needed? I mean, they've got their bullpen is so weird. They got Will Smith and Chris Stanton out there. Stratton, I'm sorry. Although Stratton hurt himself, ex-Giants, but you know, they've had pitching. Lugo goes against Snell, and Cole Riggins has been good, but they're just not hitting. After Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez, you're not just going to get a hot dog. You're going out for dinner. You know, I mean, and come back 3 innings later. So I don't know. They just, you know, the way they look right now, the Giants are pitching them really well, and they're in this crazy wild card race.
Come on.
I mean, the Orioles are pretty much in there, but then you've got 4 teams. They're in there with Minnesota, Detroit, and Seattle. They're all right there within like 2 games of each other, and 2 of those teams are going to get knocked out. Right now, it looks like you'd bet on KC being bumped out of there.
Well, they could be. They got trouble here. But, you know, the other thing is Seattle. You know, look, we talked a little bit about Julio yesterday. He went nuts again last night. And, you know, this Seattle, they could run. Now, they got Houston for 3 here. And, you know, they're not going to sweep Houston, I would imagine. So they're probably going to lose a game or 2 there. But then they end up, I think they get the A's after that, you know, up in Seattle. You know, Seattle could almost go, you know, 6-1, and they could get in this thing.
Yeah, they're going to get the best of Houston. I mean, Houston's got a 5-game lead over them right now. They can bury Seattle in terms of the division. I mean, if Seattle were to sweep that series, they'd still be in play to win the division. It'd be a long shot, but it's possible. But it's way more about the wild card. But I mean, Julio Rodriguez, good grief. They got a little bit of a break last night because Texas, I guess it's a break. Scherzer was going to start, but they scratched him. And they go with Dunning, and Julio homers to lead off the game. He gets 4 hits. He's hit 5 homers in 8 games. I mean, he's one of those guys. He's like a Ronald Acuna. I mean, you watch this guy, or Soto. I mean, he takes over a game, and it has a huge effect. And we've talked about their pitching for months, how good it is. So that's a cool story. To me, the closer it all gets with all these teams, the better for the last 2 series for everybody.
Well, I'm telling you, watch Seattle with 75 losses. You know, Kansas City's got 73, heading for 74 today. Now, the Minnesota, they've got Boston for a doubleheader today. And that, you know, it's always tough to win a doubleheader. But Minnesota, Boston, 2 games, Fenway Park. And I know I'm probably the only one that could ever remember this, and I hope you can too. But 1967. The impossible dream for the Red Sox. Minnesota went in to Boston the last 2 days, tied with the Boston Red Sox. And the Boston Red Sox beat them in the 2 games. Jim Cott from Minnesota broke his arm in Game 1, and Minnesota ended up losing that game. And Kari Yastrzemski hit number 44 and went 3 for 4. They came back the next day, and Boston beat Minnesota. Lonborg was the winner. Yastrzemski went 4 for 4 with 2 RBIs, and they win 5-3. And Dean Chance was the pitcher for Minnesota, and the rumor was that he had a plane reservation for 3 o'clock. Well, the game started at 1 o'clock, and he had a 2-0 lead in the 6th inning, and it was getting near 3 o'clock, and Boston scored 5 runs, and Dean Chance took his flight. And Boston ended up winning the pennant. Because the Tigers lost the 2nd game of a doubleheader to the Angels. So it's crazy, but it's Minnesota and Boston, Fenway Park. It has history.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Tigers there. They were in it. Dick McAuliffe hadn't grounded into a double play all season, and he grounded into one that day that really hurt him, and they fell out of that race, and it came down to the Red Sox. But I mean, you know, with Yaz going for the Triple Crown, Mike's grandfather was, if people don't realize, one of the all-time greats, and talk about stepping up in a pennant race. He seemed like he got 3 or 4 hits every single day, and they go to the series, and just a tremendous Red Sox story. But yeah, that whole Twins, where they're going to be talking about that, I guarantee you, in Boston, because fans, if they were around, they remember everything you just said.
It was great. I'll never forget it.
Yeah,
I remember watching the game, and Lonborg from Stanford.
Yeah.
Tremendous pitcher. He ended up banging his knee up, remember, in a skiing accident.
That's right, yeah.
And then he ended up with the Brewers for a while. But, yeah, so today it's Minnesota and Boston. They're back at Fenway, and Minnesota's hopes rely on doing something in Fenway. Don't count on it. That's what I'm
you
saying.
Just reminded me to put that on tape today. I got to get both games on tape. I don't want to miss that if something great happens.
Now, the National League. How about the Mets? Now, yesterday, they have Acuna's brother, this little kid. He's like, they just brought him up. He's been up 24 times. He's got 3 home runs already. J.D. Martinez is 0 for 31. Vientos strikes out 5 times. And the Mets come back, and they beat the Phillies yesterday. How about that?
I'll tell you, Acuna, this guy, he reminds you a lot of his older brother. He's been around baseball. He's got a tremendous attitude, great face, great look about him, great demeanor in the dugout. He totally looks like he belongs. I think he's hitting like 385 since he came up. The other day he gets 3 hits and a home run, and he's playing short for Lindor. I mean, this guy, who is this guy? And I tell you, he's eligible for the postseason, and they better not blow it. They better not get cute and leave him off that roster, because he can run, he can hit, and he's just a super valuable guy. But the Mets, right now they don't have Lindor or McNeil, but they've got this kid, and Iglesias is playing great.
Yep,
they haven't missed those guys that much.
No.
And yesterday they get Atlanta won, so the Mets needed to win that. Manaea, the ex-Giant who cut his hair, good move. Yet another good 7 innings from him. He gave up a couple homers, but Manaea's been really, really good. 2 more hits for Acuna, like you said, and they get Wheeler tonight, so that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, Wheeler and McGill in this one today. They sold out 44,000 yesterday at whatever they call the ballpark there, City Field.
Yeah.
Schwarber led off the game with his 15th leadoff homer of the season. He's 2 ahead of Soriano for that's the record now.
Jeez.
But how about, and then he strikes out a bunch of times, and this is baseball today. Kyle Schwarber.
Well, I mean, it's a little unusual to have your leadoff guy look like Ted Kluszewski, but I don't know if it's a trend. But I love him leading off, because you don't even think about his batting average, which is probably a good thing, as it's never that good. But he's got so much power, and he's such a threat. And it's if you open, like Julio Rodriguez led off for Seattle, so there's a little bit of the trend right there, and he homers to lead off the game. So yeah, I love it. I mean, the batting orders have changed so much. You used to have kind of a scrappy, maybe a left-hand hitter hitting second, move guys along. Now you got Mike Trout was hitting second in his prime. That became a huge trend around the game. Your best hitters at second. But so for Schwarber to lead off is, in the Phillies' case, I think it's really terrific, because there's so much behind him with Bohm and Castellanos and Harper and Real Muto, and goes on and on. Turner, like that team.
Phillies' magic number is 1 to win the division. So if they beat the Mets today, that'll do it. But, I was thinking about this. By the way, Ken Korak has texted me. He says, Seattle loses a tiebreaker to Detroit, Minnesota, and Kansas City.
Oh, wow.
So Seattle can't afford to lose too many here, especially in that Houston series. But, all right, so Seattle, they're alive, but they're going to have – they get beat on the tiebreakers. So that's the story. We appreciate the captain for that one.
Yeah.
All right. The Mets, when the Mets win, Bruce, it reminds me of Brooklyn and the Giants. When the Yankees win, who cares? I swear, that's where I grew up. When the Yankees won, all right, the Yankees won, what else is new? But when Brooklyn would win or the New York Giants would win, it was a big deal in New York. And that's the heart of the Mets. So to see the Mets in this thing and the place going wild and Brandon Nimmo screaming, "Come on, Met fans," and all this stuff, that's old Brooklyn baseball to me.
Yeah, it's funny because they came into the league in '62. The Giants are gone, but here come the Mets, and they lose 120 games, which the White Sox are threatening them now.
Come on, one more.
Yeah, and they're going to probably pass the Mets, but there's no comparison because those 62 Mets were like a lovable team. They were in town. They had Choo-Choo Coleman and Marv Throneberry and old Casey Stengel, and the Vinegar Ben Mizell showed up on that team, Marty. I mean,
that's true.
And they lose 120, and they're the lovable Mets. I mean, the White Sox have been around for 124 years, and this is what they have. And they're about as lovable as an old rock.
Yeah, they're going to lose today to San Diego. And it's Darvish and Burke today, and that'll be 120. And believe it or not, they're going to tie the Mets. They're going to go past them. That's going to be for sure. Yeah, the 62 Mets. Casey Stengel was the manager, and his first pick was, we love him, Hobie Landreth, the greatest guy ever. I love Hobie Landreth, and he just passed away. You know the story. And they said to Casey, why'd you pick Hobie Landreth as your first pick? And he said, look, without a catcher, you got a lot of pass balls.
And, Roger Craig was like the ace of that staff, and he lost 24 games. And he goes, yeah, but I'll tell you what, to lose 24, you got to be pretty good to keep putting me out there.
Yeah, and he was.
Yeah,
and from there he went to the Cardinals and ended up in a World Series in '64. Yeah, so it's good stuff. So in the Mets, when it happens for the Mets, for me, that's New York baseball.
Yeah, well, I've been in New York for when they were going head-to-head with the Cardinals, and that was such a great rivalry. To be in New York, in the stadium, in Shea Stadium, for those games, you talk about electricity. I mean, not to mention the '86 World Series, which I covered against the Red Sox. That was beyond belief to be in those games. But yeah, there's nothing like it's not like that with the Yankees. That's a whole different deal.
Yep. Yeah, and they're here in the Bay Area, and Judge hit number 54. Let's look at some of our leaders. Bruce, home runs, Judge 54, Ohtani obviously 52, Santander 43, and Soto 40. That's basically it for the 40 club.
Yeah, pretty much. The Judge he's got that one wrapped up for sure.
RBIs 137.
He's way past Ramirez there. You know what I like in the RBIs is Rooker is there.
Boy.
And, what a season, 299, 38 homers and 110 RBIs. My goodness, that's a classic season.
I wrote it down. I'm glad you brought up Rooker, 299, 38, and 110. How about that?
Jeez.
Yeah. So Judge, he's got the homers and RBIs, and for the batting title, it's trouble. 321, Vlad 324. He's hung in there.
He can pass Bobby Witt.
Witt is 334 with a week to go. That's going to be hard.
Well, Witt, he's got to carry the Royals now. Just simply, he's got to carry him. He's got to get him to the finish line, and I don't see him slumping. If it were to happen, and Judge gets hot at he's 321. That's tough. But the Witt angle is cool because the batting title is not going to mean anything to Witt if he doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, Kansas City gets Washington midweek. So
Darren Baker and the boys.
Yeah, they're trouble. You get Gore. He could be trouble, and Trevor Williams is back. Washington. That's another annoying team. But look, the Triple Crown is still a big deal. It's a big deal, and I heard some commentators, I won't mention Alex's name, I didn't say his name, but some commentators sort of put down the Triple Crown. It's a big deal. Come on, try leading the league in hitting, homers, and RBIs.
Well, nothing's cool anymore. Runs, RBIs, average, who cares about these things? It's just ridiculous. People trying to invent, a new way of looking at the game and, have fun. Meanwhile, around the clubhouse, they're talking about the things we're talking about here. And the Triple Crown it's an unbelievable feat. Yaz having done that, it's extremely hard to do. Mickey Mantle did it, but right now Ohtani is taking a shot. He's got to catch Arias, which is not going to happen. There's not enough time. But Judge is in the argument. Just to be in the argument is a wonderful achievement. Because you're hitting the ball, you're putting the ball in play, and you're hitting it out of the park. Yeah,
I'll give you another one. Dela Cruz for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He's got 207 strikeouts. he leads the major leagues in strikeouts, okay? 104 runs scored, 35 doubles, 9 triples, 65 stolen bases, 25 homers, 74 RBIs, 69 walks. He's in 263. His on base is 345. And he's slugging 479. With 207 strikeouts, that's baseball today.
That is definitely modern day baseball.
Isn't that
absolutely?
Something?
Yeah, it really is, because you can't take your eyes off him. He's a guy that he's one of the 4 or 5 guys. If you said if you could watch a player every day, he would definitely be one of them. You know, the guy gets on first and he's third a minute later, and nobody's hit the ball. And he hits the ball out of sight, hits the ball into the river in Cincinnati, and he's just got a real presence about him. Yeah, strikeouts. Strikeouts are accepted now, Marty, and it's very depressing in the launch angle era. You know, putting the ball in play is really it's just so rare to see players who emphasize that. But when you put up the numbers that he's put up, and you're an entertainer like that, that throws the balance way in his favor.
Yep, what a season for him.
Yeah.
Boy. Well, one of the good historical notes today, Dave Stewart, in 1989, Stu wins his 20th game, 3 straight years, first since Jim Palmer to do it. I wish there was a Hall of Fame for Dave Stewart. I really do.
My goodness, I was covering the A's in daily basis in '86, and amazing confluence of events. Stewart had come up with the Dodgers, and he went to the Phillies, and the Phillies had released him. They just outright released Dave Stewart in, I think, May of '86, and right around that time, the White Sox fired Tony La Russa. They had Kenny Harrelson was the new GM, and he fired his old friend Tony, and La Russa, within 3 weeks, he was managing the A's. All of a sudden, the A's have La Russa and Stewart. And they take off. They didn't win the pennant, but the second half was a complete flip. And Stewart goes on to, I mean, from '87 to 1990, didn't he win 24 years in a row?
Well, this was his third on today's date in '89.
Oh yeah, but he won 24 years in a row, and you know, that's just crazy. But he was the best pitcher in baseball, and not only was he the best, but anytime he came up against Clemens, which is a game everyone's watching, you knew how it was going to come out. I mean, Stewart and Ricky Henderson both said that game was over before it started. I mean, you talk to those guys now, the way they boost up Stu and disparage Clemens. It was really wild, but you know, Clemens he couldn't handle that matchup. It was so interesting with a guy his talent. But Stewart for the A's was just he was so amazing. And in an '89 series, you know, for him to pitch the opener and know he's coming back, you're thinking, well, this thing's over. Of course it was, but
oh boy,
yeah,
I love him. Boy, Stu is something else. A great guy too. Well, the Giants come to town here. They take on Arizona for 3. They could cause a lot of trouble for Arizona, believe me. So we'll see if they can continue what they're doing.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. I mean, Arizona's not Kansas City, and you know, Baltimore came alive yesterday a little bit, but they weren't hitting when the Giants came in. But Arizona, they won 4 in a row. They had a really bad stretch, but all of a sudden everything is going good for them. Marte's on fire, and Carroll and the whole shot. So that should be really, really interesting, because Arizona needs it, and the Giants have a good. You know, they're in a position to really spoil it.
Yep. This is going to be some week of baseball. All right, boy, great to have you on. Enjoy Sunday. We got a lot to do.
You bet. Thanks a million, Marty.
All right, have a good day. Boy, that is Bruce Jenkins, the professor, coming up next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Just a quick note about the rooftop restaurant at the Via Hotel, the Hotel Via across the street from the park. They do a wide variety of events on the rooftop, from weddings and birthdays to corporate retreats and special events, holiday events, and any other special occasion you can think of. With stunning 360 views of the skyline, Bay Bridge, East Bay, and of course Oracle Park, the rooftop at Via is truly one of the most unique event venues in San Francisco.
Everyone likes a party, but everyone loves a party at Original Joe's. With 3 private dining rooms, it's the perfect spot to hold your next big event. From christenings to corporate gatherings, we'll make your next party San Francisco special. Original Joe's, see you at the counter.
Time now to go to Sunday school with the professor.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
Giants coach Ron Wotus with Marty Lauren.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper.
On your home of Giants baseball.
Good answer. I like the way you think.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Brought to you by River Islands, one of the country's top-selling master plan communities just across the Altamont in Lathrop. Where else can you live on a lake next door to a park or walking distance to your kid's new school? With 10 new neighborhoods, River Islands is the one place you can't afford to miss.
All right, great to have you back with us. Professor, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Marty. I'm doing great. You know, I know one thing. Don't try to figure out baseball and tell me, well, the Giants got a tough road trip coming up. You know, what are they going to do? They're playing contending teams. How are they going to get through it? And look what happens. They're having one of their starts of their best road trip of the year. Unfortunately, there's no year left. But it's good to see them playing good baseball.
Yeah, they are. And look, they're getting good pitching up and down the rotation. It's all solid, and they're hitting the ball out of the park, getting some timely hitting, and it's fun. It's fun, and they're playing a couple of teams that right now are slumping offensively, and this Kansas City team scored 4 runs in the last 40 innings.
Well, that's a great point, Marty, because, you know, a lot of times it's not who you're playing, it's who the starting pitcher is or how the team is playing when you get them. So you just never know. It's nice when you run into several teams on a road trip or over the course of a couple weeks that are really scuffling because it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, but I was thinking about River Islands today, and it's such a gorgeous time. The heat, the weather, you know, right in the Bay Area, it's better than it has been. You know, you live in a neighborhood, whoa, and you wake up, there's parks, trails, kayaks, not bad.
You're exactly right. And, you know, I'm just going to make a trip with my great-niece and nephew to go to the Del Oso farm and go through the corn maze and get the pumpkins and the whole ball of wax and then maybe swing over to River Islands, say hello to a few people. But you're right, they have something for everybody. They have something for, you know, young families. They have something, they have the senior community. What's it called, Marty, now?
The Del Webb.
The Del Webb community. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to offer over there, and there's not a better time of year to go take a peek as in the fall.
No, you can enjoy it right in your neighborhood. That's the thing. You don't have to go anywhere. That's cool. All right, I like it. Hey, a couple of things. One, curfews in baseball. And there used to be old stories about curfews, and Casey Stengel would have curfews on the old Yankees, and he would give the elevator operator a ball, and he'd say to the elevator operator, hey, get signatures on the ball when the guys come in. And then the elevator operator would give the ball to Casey, and Casey would know who came in and who didn't, right? All right, now, Washington, did you see this with C.J. Abrams? They sent him to the minor leagues yesterday because he missed curfew, and he was at Bally's at the casino till 8 a.m., and the game was at 1. And they said that was a little too late. He missed the curfew. So the Mets are talking about it, and Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez are talking about it. And they said, yeah, Davey Johnson used to have curfew and a bed check. And Davey says, I'm going to come by at midnight, and those beds better be in the room. If they're not, you're in trouble. And that was his bed check. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My question.
Well,
did you ever get involved with stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. You know, I haven't seen a curfew in the major leagues the whole time I got to the major leagues, whether it was a player in the 80s or a coach. Now, you know, it's the old CYA. He missed curfew, so we're going to send him to the minor leagues. You know, I think they're just putting the right face on it, saying you can't be out all night. But there's no curfews anymore. Come on. I used to do it, obviously, in the minor leagues as a minor league manager. Back with Jack Hyatt would be the farm director, and, you know, whether you were the A-ball manager or the double-A manager, you had to go out at 11 o'clock and check bed check at the hotel in spring training. I never did it during the season. I mean, you can't control it, obviously, on the home games. On the road, sometimes there's been disturbances, but I never did go check beds on the road during the regular season. But it happened routinely in spring training. And believe me, it was no fun. You go into the rooms, knocking on the doors, and some rooms you go in, and the kid's half asleep. He opens the door, and he goes, "Quit waking me up." So it was no fun. And, that's a crazy story, Abrams. So what a shame. This kid's having such a good start to his career. It's a shame that happened.
Well, he was out till 8 a.m., so... but what about you and when you got to the big leagues? With the Pirates, with the family and all those people, did they ever check beds on the Pirates?
No, they never checked beds. Hey, they'd want me to stay out late. Maybe I'd play better. So, no, we never had a Kuiper in Pittsburgh when I was on the road. Those days, for me, were long gone. But the stories are great back, years before that. But I've never seen them.
Yeah, Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, they used to sneak out the window of the hotel and, find the rear entrance to come back in. It was crazy, but that's what baseball was like in those days. All right, we had another crazy incident this week. Did you see Altuve got thrown out of a game? Did you see this?
Was it the toe, the big toe?
Yeah, yes. So he claims he gets hit, or it's a foul ball off his toe, whatever. And the umpire says no, and Altuve takes his shoe off to show his toe, that his toe got hit. And as soon as he did that, they threw him out of the game.
That's a shame, Marty. Look, they're there to get the call right. We always used to, check the ball, right? The umpires would always check the ball to see if there was shoe polish on it. So if you don't see any shoe polish, why don't you go to the next 2 layers down, get rid of the sock, and look at the toe? I don't see anything wrong with it, but I've never seen anybody do it. And poor Altuve, he threw his arms up like, "What do you mean you're throwing me out? I just fouled the ball off my toe." So that was fun to see, actually.
No, there's one very famous one in the World Series in 1957. With Nippy Jones for the Braves, got hit on a shoe, and they said he didn't, and they got the ball and the shoe polish, and he got first base, and the Braves came back to win the game. That was one of the most famous ones ever. So it happens.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It does. I wasn't aware of that one, but that was routine. But I haven't seen anybody check a baseball in a long, long time.
Well, don't take your shoe off. That's the answer.
It's in the rule book, I think. Don't take your shoes off.
Yeah, this is a good one for you to talk about on TV today. I like it. That'd be
okay,
good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'll get everybody loose on the set, believe me. All right. Now, there was a play the other night where the umpire, there was a foul ball that Hampson hit, and you pointed out Hampson can hit a fastball. And the question was it fair or foul? Was it reviewable? And you educated me on this one. Explain this.
Well, when I broke in later, the video review, when I was dealing with it in 2014, that play was reviewable. I'm 99.9% sure. But I did a little more research because when I broke in, they were saying if the ball has to go beyond the first base or the third base umpire for it to be reviewable. That means on the out, beyond them on the outfield side. But if a line drive or a ball that lands in front of the umpire hinders his view of the play, it would be reviewable. Now, it definitely hindered his view. But what happened on that play, I come to find out they did not review it. It was a rules check. So the manager can come out of the dugout at any point, you don't see it very often, and ask them to check the rule on the play if it is reviewable or not. So I think somebody in Kansas City's dugout's been around a long time like I was and remember that play being reviewable. So that's what happened. That's why you never saw the umpire, get on the microphone and say, the call stands on the field. because it was a rules check, and they did check the rule. And I found out from Yo Morimoto, who our video replay guy, who's in Kansas City, and got the message from the league on what transpired. And so they were saying, no, that play is not reviewable. And the reason it's not reviewable, and this makes a lot of sense, Marty, because I think you, myself, I was on set that day, and I says, wow, if they try to replace the runners now after everybody stops, where are they going to put them? You're going to have a real mess. I remember when video review came in, and we were telling our runners, if you're on base and there's a ball, say it's second and third, 2 outs, a ground ball to deep shortstop, guy in third goes home, the guy in first is beaten out, it's bang, bang at the plate, at first base, it's bang, bang, they call him out. We wanted the runner who was on second base to continue running to go home, because now they, if they call him out and they review it and he's safe, they go to review, and the umpires in New York placed the runners to where their position was. So if he was closer, rounding third going to home, he possibly could score. The crazy thing is, I've never seen that play come into play in all these years. So that's the reason this play with multiple men on base and a ball that's hit like that, they do not make it reviewable, because it would just be a travesty on how do you place the runners anywhere. And, of course, Bob Melvin would have got thrown out if they changed that from a foul ball to a hit, to a fair ball.
Well, if the ball is past the umpire, though, isn't that reviewable?
That is reviewable. Now, the same situation stands. So keep your runners going, play it like it's a live ball, at least until the point to where, the play's kind of dead. So you'd want to keep running in that situation. And once in a while you'll see that umpires will make a call, a batter hits the ball, and he's stopping, and you'll see the third base umpire, waving him. Let's go, keep going. You don't know if it's fair or foul yet. Let's go, keep going.
Wow, good baseball. Good baseball. The professor on Sunday morning. Good one. All right. There was a play yesterday. Roop, first of all, pitched a great game, and you can comment on that as well. But there was the old 3-6-1 double play. First, the short, back to the pitcher covering on the double play. And I've seen it so many times, and Roop fell down. I mean, he couldn't find the bag. Why can't the pitchers just get to the bag and stand up? Can't they do that?
Well, I think what happens, Marty, a lot of the time they're in such a hurry to get over there. You're on the run, so you're going as fast as you can, because the fast runners, you got to get over there. And then when you try to stop, you're really not balanced. And then when the shortstop throws it back towards the home plate side, now you got to go the other direction, and you lose your balance. And of course, the throw was in the dirt yesterday, and they end up falling to the ground to try to pick the ball. You're right. It happens an awful lot. And, I've never done it personally. You got me thinking, I'm going to try to do that play on my own and see if I can stay on my feet, because you do see a lot of guys falling down, reaching for the ball. You got to remember, too, they're never at first base doing any of that. But I think it's because of the momentum that they have, sprinting to the base, then trying to get their foot on the bag. And then when the throw's on the way, it's almost a little bit of a panic, because everything happens so quick. And sometimes they end up losing their balance. That's the only thing I could think of, Marty.
Well, it's one to work on in spring training, I think. I think it's time to work on that one, because somebody's going to get hurt. So,
Well, they do, Marty. That's one play I'll say in pitchers' PFP that they work on quite often, because it is a difficult play for the pitcher. And, they do it in spring training. Now, once the season starts, we actually did it a couple times this year here in San Francisco. Had the pitchers out for PFP, Brian Price did, and then they worked on that play specifically too. So to your point, that's a good one to work on, because it happens all the time. The other one for me that should be worked on throughout the season is the comebacker, man on first, comebacker to the pitcher. He throws to second for a double play. How many times do you see that ball launched in the center field, a routine double play, and the pitcher can't make the throw? So that's a play that we worked on all the time.
Conforto made a great base running play yesterday. It was first and third, potential double play ball. He gets in the pickle long enough where the runners the other runners get to second and third, stays out of the double play, and then the home run barrage started after that. I thought Conforto, really a smart play for him.
Yeah, Marty, you're exactly right. The nuance of the game that gets overlooked, but that base running play led to 6 more runs because first and third, 1 out. He's at third base. The ball was hit very hard by McRae, so it's a double play ball. So the runners are told, you go home because you want to stay out of the double play. If they get you at home plate, we got first and second and 2 outs. But if you stand at third and don't go, they turn the double play and the inning is over. Well, in this case, he went home. They threw home. They had him dead to rights. He got in the rundown, and the 2 and stayed in it long enough for the runners to advance. The batter runner, McRae, to go to second, Fitzgerald to go to third. Then we get a walk. Then Casale gets a nice base hit to drive in 2. Yaz hits a homer, and you have a big inning, all because they executed the base running play correctly. So, we talk about, and I've heard you say it, the Giants have played over 80 games decided by 2 runs or less. And we tend to say, the hitting, situational hitting is important, no doubt about it, but the overall hitting or the pitching, but we forget about, the base running in games, how important it is. The bunting obviously has been talked about. When you're playing close games, everything matters. Those are all big plays.
Yeah, next week we'll talk about the tag-up, the Wisely Ramos tag-up with Slater and Mullins colliding in right field, how that should have been handled.
Right.
And we'll do that next week. Oh, good stuff, Wo. Yeah, man, you're the professor. Good stuff. So you're on TV today, right?
Yeah, they have an early start, 10:30. The pregame show starts, and then, of course, the postgame. Hopefully they don't have any weather in Kansas City because, Marty, nobody likes the rain delay. Nobody.
No, I used to do it. My longest show ever, 8.5 hours.
Geez.
How about that? You guys are complaining about an hour. I did 8.5 hours.
Well, you're crazy, Marty. I don't know. You do 8.5 hours. You must have a lot of coffee if you're in the bunker or wherever the heck you were at.
It was all baseball. That was it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you love the game, Marty. You do a fantastic job. It's always great being with you on Sunday morning, and I look forward to next week as well, which is going to be the final show.
Yeah, we'll be live in the bunker next. And we'll have you on the stream too, so that'll be good.
But I heard also that you're going to do a YouTube thing, so we'll be able to see you and hear you throughout the winter, just not, this being the final show.
Yeah, you and me too on YouTube, and we're going to have Ask the Coach, or we'll do some special thing with you, and where the fans can see you and talk to you and ask you a question.
That would be great. I'd love to talk to the fans. I loved when you were on and took questions because the people want to know. I don't really know the side of it like you do, but now I'm getting tweets and things on Instagram asking about plays, et cetera, because I do a little bit of TV. And, the people want to know, Marty. So it's fantastic that you're going to be doing that.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. All right, well, have a good afternoon. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Marty. Take care.
All right, take care. All right, more coming up. We're running. Joe Sheehan next right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Fans, I love to talk about my good friends at Georgie Brothers Furniture. They've served the Bay Area for over 90 years. Their talented staff work as a team to help their customers find beautiful pieces of furniture to invest in. The 50,000 square foot showroom, you've heard of it, is full of some of the finest manufacturers of furniture, carpets, and window coverings. Now, one of the most popular furniture lines that I own is Stressless. I love it. They make high-quality, comfortable furniture, including sectionals, sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the one I've got, and that is the chair and ottoman. I love it. Starting August 30th and running all the way until October 21st, there's a new Stressless promotion. It's called Fall Savings. During this sale, you'll receive an instant 10% savings on all Stressless furniture. This can easily add up to hundreds of dollars. It's an unbelievable savings on one of the most well-made furniture products today. That's Georgie Brothers Furniture. The showroom is in South San Francisco with free parking. Since 1933, the best source for home furnishings. Visit them at GeorgieBrothers.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. Remember to tell them Marty sent you. Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship.
Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Up in the book tree in Montclair, David's got a great book, and I'll hold it up on the stream here. It's called Schoolboy, The Untold Journey of a Yankees Hero, Wade Hoyt, with Tim Manners. And that interview with Tim will be on loveofthegameproductions.com and, of course, also on the KNBR podcast page, too. But it's really a good book, and David has got it up there. So I'm glad that we can have that as part of the show today. Joe Sheen joins us. Joe, I apologize for running over. How are you today?
Good, Marty. I was just watching some of the golf from Europe while you were doing the previous segment, so I'm fine. In fact, if I yell during this, it means Rory McIlroy did something.
I'm glad you're still awake after watching that. All right. All right. Now, you did a great column today in the newsletter, joesheen.com, on the Royals. And we've got the Royals here, and I was just saying 4 runs in like 40 innings. And it's Bobby Witt, and you tell me what else. This is the Kansas City Royals.
Nothing else, really. This is the problem that they've had. Even go back to how this team was constructed. J.J. Piccolo did a really good job last winter at buying pitching. Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, give him full credit for that. But he didn't do very good picking hitting. Hunter Renfroe, Adam Frazier, Garrett Hampson. And this is a team that has not been able to develop hitters outside of Witt. MJ Melendez hasn't really hit. Kyle Isbell. You think about the guys they thought were going to take steps forward this year. Michael Garcia. So it's not a good offensive team internally. It's not a good offensive team externally. All they did at the deadline was pick up Paul DeYoung. He's got a 280 OBP. So this is a team right now. Vinny Pasquantino got injured. Yuli Gurriel took his place. That's actually worked out well for them. But they had 5 hitters in last night's lineup with a sub-290 OBP. You mentioned Bobby Witt. You look at this losing streak. The Bobby Witt is trying to carry the team, like Kelly Leak and the Bad News Bears. And the rest of the team has a 500 OPS.
Well, then plus they get Blake Snell today. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that you talk to Royals fans. They were really worried about the series. They figured they had to win at least one of the first 2 games because of Snell. Snell's, of course, been fantastic here in the second half, as he does most years. He's had half of a good season, 2.53 FIP. He's been incredibly hard to hit. The Royals, to the extent that they have a split, they actually are better than against righties. So they're definitely concerned. But this has been the thing with the Royals all year. They've had these stretches. They've lost 5 of 6, 4 of 5, 7 in a row at one point. And every time they go through these stretches, Seth Lugo or Cole Reagans goes to the mound and shuts the other team down. So Snell on the mound for the Giants today, but it is Lugo for the Royals. And this is the spot where he's come up for them time and time again.
Boy, it's good. Great games today all over baseball. We got a doubleheader in Boston with Minnesota, and the memories of Carl Yastrzemski and the Minnesota Twins needing to win in Boston. How about that coming back to me today? Heck,
that was that great 67 race, right?
Yeah, come on. Boston won the last 2 games. Jim Cott broke his arm on Saturday, and Dean Chance had a plane reservation at 3 o'clock on Sunday, and that was it for the Minnesota Twins. And Carl Yastrzemski went wild. So they got the pennant. But we got Minnesota there. How about Detroit and the Orioles? And look at San Diego. They've got Arizona and the Giants coming up here. San Diego and the Dodgers. There's good baseball coming up.
Yeah, it didn't look like we were going to get a great stretch drive. Maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I think I wrote that. We pretty much were down to, at that point, it seemed like 13 teams for 12 spots. And, of course, the Royals not playing well. The Tigers have been dragged back into this. The Mariners have been dragged back into this. The Braves and Mets looking like that'll be for the final NL wildcard spot this week in Atlanta. The Mets are up 2. They play a best of 3 in Atlanta that will not just has effect on the standings, but right now they're tied for the year, so the winner of that series also has the tiebreaker. So a lot of things going on there. The biggest story in baseball today, though, is none of those teams, right? It's in San Diego, not the Padres, the White Sox. Nobody alive. No, I should take that back. No, just one team in the last 124 seasons has lost 120 games. The White Sox can lose their 120th game today. That's got to be the big story. I mean, it's not fun. I mean, well, I guess for the rest of us, it's fun to point and laugh. But it's obviously a big story. There was a great piece at The Athletic this week by Britt Garoli and Ken Rosenthal kind of pointing the finger at Jerry Reinsdorf and saying, he's the reason the White Sox are in this dilemma. And it's funny, Marty, this is a team that 3 years ago was in the playoffs. And now they're going to be the worst team that ever lived. Well,
yeah, they go for 120 today. To tie the 1962 Mets. They're going to end up with 124, 125 when it's all said and done. Seattle, Ken Korak pointed out to us that Seattle loses all the tiebreakers. First of all, the tiebreakers make my head spin trying to figure this out. But Seattle, they can run the table here. They could take a couple from Houston. Seattle can end up getting in they can be a wild card team.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably not going to catch the Astros. They do go to Houston this week for 3 games, and you sweep that, you can steal the division. But realistically, they're playing for a wild card. You mentioned their tiebreaker situation. I'm with you on the tiebreakers for any number of reasons, but baseball has this incredible history of 1-game playoffs, or historically and nationally 3-game playoffs. Some of the greatest moments in baseball history. And I was 7 years old when Bucky Dent hit the home run. You, of course, probably remember 62 between the Giants and Dodgers. The great playoff then. To throw that away in favor of tiebreakers, I think has been a big loss for the game. But that's the situation we're in right now. So these teams know that they're 2 back in the standings, but really they're 2.5 back. Some of these races will be decided earlier because the tiebreaker will have determined who's going to. You can't really, even if you catch the team, you can't really catch them. The Royals are in good shape. They have tiebreakers over the Tigers and the Mariners, but not the Twins. It's, as you mentioned, Marty, it is very convoluted. Once you start getting into that, I get things wrong every year, and I started just pointing people. MLB.com has a great tiebreaker page. I encourage people to go to that. I can't mentally keep track of all of them because some of them are going to go down to the second and even third tiebreakers. And I think some of this is my brain my brain rejecting the concept. So I just don't get it right because, the human brain is a weird thing. But, the Mariners, to bring it back to the Mariners, they played very good ball here the last couple of weeks. I want to say 14-6 in their last 20. Their run prevention, one of the things about this team is that they can shut teams down. Their rotation is so strong, even with Castillo out. So they can go on one of these heaters where if they just score enough runs to support the pitching, they can get out. And, Marty, in September, they're actually one of the top offenses in baseball. Randy Arozarena has been good for them. Julio Rodriguez, finally healthy after that ankle injury, has gone on a tear for them. So this is the best form of the Mariners. And, I do the gaming newsletter. So I had somebody who reads that write to me the other day, like, are there any long shots that you would look at? And over email, I didn't publish this because I'm an idiot. Over email, I gave him the Mariners at 66-1 to win the American League. Now, they've still got to get into the brackets. But even over a couple of days, that number has dropped considerably. So if the Mariners can just get into the playoffs, I think they're very dangerous because, I say, that great pitching staff.
What do you think of the Dodger, Arizona, San Diego triumvirate here? How does this thing play out?
Well, the Diamondbacks are basically playing for, I don't think the Diamondbacks will catch the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks and Padres play that last weekend. That might just be for home field advantage in the wild card round. Those teams are likely to be 4-5. There's a chance the Mets get into that. We'll see what happens in that Mets-Braves series. The Padres right now to me seem like, if you look at outside the division winners, they seem like the most dangerous team right now. And the Padres, of course, could catch the Dodgers. They'll play 3 in Dodger Stadium this week. But in the same sense that the Dodgers have kept losing pitchers, the Padres keep getting pitchers back. Joe Musgrove has been very effective since coming back. Darvish came back a couple weeks ago. He's been very good. Like, all of a sudden, this looks like a strong 4-man rotation. Cease, King, Musgrove, Darvish. We know about their bullpen. Now, Robert Suarez gave up the game-tying homer the other night, but he's still a power arm in the ninth. The Tanner Scott and Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada, they're just so deep in that bullpen. Like, you talk about a playoff pitching staff, a team using its best, say, 4 starters and 5 relievers. The Padres may have the best pitching, 9-man pitching staff in these playoffs. You look at maybe the Guardians with all their relievers as another one. You look at the Phillies with their great starters. But, I don't know if the Padres will catch the Dodgers, but if we get into another one of these situations where the Padres are playing the Dodgers in the second round, I think the Padres are going to end up favored just because they have so much more pitching than the Dodgers, who, Yamamoto goes today. He hasn't thrown more than 4 innings in a game in 2.5 months. Jack Flaherty has been stable. Jack Flaherty is probably the number 1 right now. Walker Buehler has gotten knocked around. He's got 3 quality starts all season long, Marty. And then, of course, everybody else is hurt. Maybe they get Kershaw back. They talk about Tony Gonsolin possibly pitching. The Dodgers will probably hold on for the division, but going into the playoffs, they just don't have the pitching. It looks a little bit like last year.
Boy, this is going to be something. This is going to be some week of baseball. There's so much going on. Hey, I love having you on. You'll be with us again next weekend to wrap it up. So enjoy the week, and I appreciate having you on, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Take care.
Oh, boy, that is Joe Sheen, joesheen.com. All right. Walter, thanks for your patience this morning. I really appreciate it, honestly. Try to get all this stuff in as we try to get everything done. Of course, as I mentioned yesterday, Mardi Gras is April the 3rd of 2025, the night before the home opener. And people sent in emails yesterday. A ton of people did. Send me an email, martylurie@yahoo.com, if you're interested, because I want to try to get a good count early before we do this over the winter, because I want to take over a little more of the restaurant if John Dugan will let us at Original Joe's in North Beach. So, yeah, martylurie@yahoo.com if you're interested in coming to Mardi Gras. It's April 3rd of 2025. Walter, again, thank you so much, and I'll say goodbye next weekend at 58 Social. We'll be out there. Enjoy the week of baseball. Good stuff coming up. And, hey, Blake Snell today, anything can happen. All right, Walter coming up with our Giants warm-up right now. Have a good day, everybody.
Seam heads, start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants Warm-Up.
Way back there! Goodbye!
On the sports leader.
What's up and good morning, Giants fans. I have to remember it is 9 a.m., so I gotta tone it down for everyone within earshot. Don't want to wake up the neighbors. Do have new neighbors, actually, and I wonder, yesterday's show, hear me yelling about the Giants. I wonder what they think is going on over here. But welcome to the Giants warm-up show. As the Giants try to get this game in at Kauffman Stadium, there is rain in the forecast. We will let you know if we have updates when they are available as the warm-up continues. But we are live on YouTube and Twitch. And of course, the number is 415-808-KNBR. That's 415-808-5627 if you want to get involved in the conversation. We have a game to discuss from yesterday. Landon Roop looked phenomenal on the mound yesterday. Just his ERA just continues to drop in the month of September. Now his third start of the season. You just wonder what it can potentially be down the stretch. You had Matt Chapman come back, hit 2 home runs. Lamont Wade Jr. Hit 2 home runs for the second time in his career. So a lot to discuss in that one, because now the Giants are they're going for the sweep, their third sweep of the season. But this will be the first one that isn't named against the Colorado Rockies, if they can actually pull this out and if they can actually get this game in. Again, rain in the forecast. And we will now, since we're talking about all this rain, we have the perfect guy to talk about it. The weatherman at the KNBR weather desk, our guy Raph, weatherman Raph. Raph, what do you got, man? How's it looking in KC?
Hey, Walter, good to be with you. Well, we actually have some rain moving out, so it looks like we'll be able to start the game. But we do have, off and on showers for the rest of the night, for the rest of the day. So we'll see if we'll have a complete game. If not, well, we could do a Monday makeup next week.
Yeah, man,
it was incredible. Season ends.
Yeah, dude, it was incredible because we were talking to Joe Rizzo yesterday. I'm sure we'll talk to him again this morning when we head up to the booth at Kauffman Stadium. But he was pretty much talking about the scenario, right? If the Giants, they're going to try to do everything that they can to get this game in. So this is going to be, I know it's not going to be what did Marty do? 8.5 hours? That is incredible.
Marty does that in his sleep. So it's
yeah, man.
It's not a problem.
Did he take any breaks? That's the real question. Marty is such a pro for that. 8.5 hours. I'm over here stressing about like a 30-minute delay. You know what I mean? So
there was break. There was no breaks at all.
That's incredible. Yeah, no, I know how it goes, Raph. Thank you. But yeah, man. So it'll be really interesting to see what the scenario is, because the Giants are going to try to get this game in today, because Joe Rizzo was talking to us yesterday on the talkback, and he pretty much just said that the off days do not line up, right? The Giants go from Kansas City to Arizona for their 3-game set. Their off day this week is on Thursday. Off day for the Royals is tomorrow. So it does not work out schedule wise. So then that kind of turns into a 163 type situation where if this game is not in that the Royals, this is huge playoff implications for the Kansas City Royals. So it could be that day after the official end to the 162 on Sunday that the Giants would have to go back to Kauffman Stadium, dragging out this season for one more day. So we'll have to see how the weather goes. But again, we will keep you up to date, and Raph will definitely be in my ear if he hears anything or sees anything on that radar as we get closer to game time. But that is good to know that the rain is kind of clearing up around game time. So we will definitely let you know about that. But before we get more into today's game, we do have a great matchup for you today with Seth Lugo, who, one of the most maybe improbable seasons for a starting pitcher this year with Seth Lugo. He has 16 wins on the year. He was in the Cy Young conversation for a good majority of the year. So that's who the Giants will be opposed, and they send out their guy Blake Snell. He'll be out there. He's riding a 2-game winning streak. But yeah, it's always fun to see Blake Snell on the mound for the San Francisco Giants. But before we get into today's matchup and all of that, we'll break it down a little bit. We do have Zach Beirudi from the Sacramento River Cats. We will be talking with him, just kind of take a look at the farm, see what's going on, because the Sacramento River Cats end their season today. It will be their last game. I believe they're in Sugar Land. So we will talk with Zach Beirudi and get the lowdown from AAA Sacramento. And so with that, I mean, let's kind of talk about some of these young guys that are making a huge impact, right? Going into yesterday, Landon Roop was making his 3rd start of the season, and you know, his prior starts were pretty solid, right? I mean, he looked pretty good. I think it was 14 innings pitched if you're including his relief outing prior to his first 2 starts of the year. It was 14 innings, 2 earned runs. And then you just add to that yesterday, he pitched 5 innings with shutout ball. He has to work on the command. He has to work on the walks for sure. That's something that a young pitcher always struggles with. But, you know, 3 Ks, 3 walks, but only allowed, I believe it was just the one hit over the 5. Oh, 3 hits, excuse me. 3 hits, 3. There it goes. 3 hits, 3 Ks, 3 walks in 5 innings, no earned runs. So Landon Roop looked really incredible. And with that outing yesterday, over now it's 19 innings pitched in the month of September. His ERA has dropped to 0.90. That is incredible stuff from Landon Roop, who can be someone that fixed into this starting rotation at some point in the near future when you're looking to 2025, and we all have the questions, and we'll discuss. And I'd like to have everybody's thoughts on Blake Snell moving into what could be his final starts in a orange and black uniform, in a Giants uniform. He goes today, and looks like his last start of the season could potentially line up on Saturday. So we'll discuss that again next week. But when you look at all of these young pitchers, when you look at Landon Roop, when you look at Hayden Birdsong and Mason Black and all these guys kind of making their strides to move forward in this Giants organization and into the future plans of this Giants organization, the question is, does Blake Snell come back? Do you fork over that money when you have all of these guys? And we've had this conversation, shortly after Matt Chapman got his contract extension. And I did feel at that time, and I still hold by it, that Matt Chapman was more important to this Giants organization for multiple reasons. But I mean, you see what he did yesterday. He came back, he hit the 2 home runs, but Matt Chapman has a different type of, I would say, different type of influence on this team and a perception from potential free agents wanting to come. I mean, we heard the post extension comments in the presser with Matt Chapman. And he said that guys have already reached out to him as far as inquiring of becoming San Francisco Giants, right? I mean, you have to love that kind of gravitational pull that a Matt Chapman has. Not saying that Blake Snell doesn't have that, but then when you look at just the position, right, of third base, and you look all around in the minor leagues, whatever level you're looking at, Giants just don't have the depth at that position. So I felt like not only is he great as a leader, he's great as a contributor to the defense, a good contributor in offense. I mean, he just kind of checks off all the boxes to where if you are moving forward and you need a centerpiece to kind of pair with a Logan Webb and pair with these young guys that are coming up, Matt Chapman is perfect. Now, when you look to Blake Snell, that whole conversation, again, you're looking at all of these young guys with with Landon Roop, with Hayden Birdsong, with Mason Black, and all these guys that are making their starts. And we're not even mentioning Carson Wisenhunt, who we'll hear from Zach Beirudi and give kind of the lowdown on what his development is like and what kind of stuff that he has that if it can translate to the major league level. So when you have all of those all those pieces in the organization, and I understand that they're prospects and you never really know. And Blake Snell is kind of a for sure thing. Like, you know what you're getting out of Blake Snell. But when you have all of those guys, is it worth it to put all that money into Blake Snell? And I'm not saying just to not spend the money. I'm just saying you can use that money elsewhere in getting other free agents potentially to upgrade your offense. We all know the difficulty of bringing in free agent hitters. So maybe there has to be something with an acquisition of a trade that we discuss later in the show. But yeah, when you look to the Giants and having to fork over the money, they do have to overpay market value for free agent hitters to come to San Francisco. We know that is the thing. So if they save that money from a Blake Snell signing and they go ahead and bring in some hitters, maybe that's the better course of action. But we will discuss. I would like to have everyone's thoughts, and go ahead and chime in on the YouTube chat, on Twitter, or on Twitch. We are live on YouTube and Twitch. Go ahead and drop down your thoughts on that, and go ahead and give me a call. 415-808-5627 is the number. We will continue that conversation as this show continues. But let's get into yesterday. We have a couple cuts for you from the post game with Bob Melvin and Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman hit 2 home runs yesterday, coming back from his paternity leave and with the dad power. So we will hear from Matt Chapman. But let's first get to the starter, right? It all started with Landon Roop. He looked fantastic yesterday, and here's what Bob Melvin had to say about the young righty's performance yesterday.
Yeah, he's been rolling. I mean, look, I was with 90, but man, I was really kind of tempted to let him go back out there. Last thing I want to do is have him throw 100 pitches when he's been a reliever all year. And then we had a big inning, and it made it that much easier to get him out of there. But man, he's really focused out there. He's intense. And all this is kind of building up with confidence, and you're seeing the type of stuff he has and what he can accomplish.
Yeah, and that's the big thing with any young player, right? And it's confidence, right? And that's kind of what Landon Roop is exhibiting, and he's being given that opportunity. Now, we were discussing yesterday with the roster moves with Marco Luciano being sent down to AAA and all the reports of him heading down to Arizona to work on things in the outfield, that it can add some versatility to Marco Luciano's game. And, it's just you tend to wonder, especially with the position players, because the management of the position players has been a little bit of a head scratcher, I would say, in my opinion. It's a little bit of a head scratcher when you look to all of the options, all the call ups, all the recall. Like, it's could be frustrating as a fan just watching it transpire. I could only imagine how the confidence is affected when you look to, not only Marco Luciano, but when you look to Luis Matos, and when you flash back to Joey Bart, just all the management or mismanagement of these prospects coming up through the San Francisco Giants system. Now let's switch over to Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman was back in the lineup yesterday, returning from the paternity list. Just his wife gave birth to their daughter, Gia. I think I forget what the middle name was, but Gia. And Matt Chapman came out, and he pretty much just kept swinging for the fences, man. He had 2 home runs yesterday, and his longest one, you'll hear it a little bit later. It'll be our detailed measurement later in the show. But Matt Chapman was pretty much saying, "Did you have a little bit of that dad strength?" Here he was in the postgame.
No, nothing. No, I felt like more tired, to be honest with you. I felt like the last couple of days were just such a whirlwind that, I flew in today, so just getting here was a little stressful, and then, I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad I'm more settled in now. But yeah, it was just a crazy couple of days. So the first couple innings, it was hard to I was trying to get engaged in the game and just try to, get back into the rhythm a little bit. And I feel like after a couple innings and my first at bat, I was able to kind of settle in a little bit and get back in the swing of things. And obviously hitting the homer gives you a little bit of relief there.
Yeah, he hit 1, he hit 2, and now he's at 26 on the season, and that's what leads us to our next point of the conversation and 808 KNBR is the number. Matt Chapman is at 26 home runs. Do you think that he can reach 30? Do you think that he can finally hit that milestone that has eluded the San Francisco Giants, anyone on the roster since 2004? You know who it was, Barry Lamar Bonds. That was the last guy to do so, and it has eluded them for 20 years. So is this finally the year that it happens? He has one more game, hopefully, that gets played today in Kaufman. Maybe he can grab one more, and then he goes into Arizona. That's a hotbed for home runs. Maybe he can hit that 30 mark. And actually, he does well hitting home runs at Oracle Park too. I think I was looking at his numbers a couple of weeks ago when we were on the warm up, and I want to say that he's hit more home runs at home than he has on the road. I'll have to check that on the break. But here's Matt Chapman. He was asked that question, if he can get to that 30 home run mark this year.
I don't know. That's good. You're gonna have to go on an Ohtani run right there. But no, I do. That is definitely something that I'm aware of, that nobody's done it since Barry, and it would be awesome. But I'm gonna have 6 more cracks at it. So I just want to keep playing well and finish the season strong, and set the tone for us going into the next season. And I expect big things out of us.
And I know that 30 home runs in a season that the Giants don't make the postseason, maybe it's a little bit of a wash, but that has to feel like a hell of an accomplishment for Matt Chapman if he was to reach the 30 home run mark. So we'll have to monitor that down the stretch of the season. So we will continue this conversation. Blake Snell, are you ready to pay him? I was looking in the YouTube chat while we were playing some of those cuts. Lando Cal, he says that pay Snell and pay Soto. I don't know if they have enough to do both. Maybe I'm not gonna. But okay, you want to pay both. You want to pay Blake Snell and pay Juan Soto. I'm not even thinking about Juan Soto, man. I mean, if he comes, great. But I'm so defeated over the last couple of off seasons that I'm just not even gonna think about it. And if it happens, great. We'll discuss it when it happens. But Juan Soto, yeah, that's for Lando Cal. Is that Lando Calrissian? Is that where he's going? Star Wars reference. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick break. We've gone for about 20 minutes here, so let's take a quick break. And you'll hear from Zach Bay-Rudy on the other side, the play-by-play voice of the Sacramento River Cats. Will get the lowdown on what's going on in Sacramento as that season concludes and how that looks for the Giants in 2025. So coming up next on the Giants warm-up show, Zach Bay-Rudy, play-by-play voice of the Sacramento River Cats. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the Sports Leader.
All right, welcome back to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader. And now for our next guest, we will be taking a look at the farm. We will be heading to the Sacramento River Cats and speak with the play-by-play voice of the River Cats, Zach Bay-Rudy. Zach, welcome to the show, man. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, Walt? Thanks for having me. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Unfortunately, the Giants are out of playoff contention, but it's kind of that time of year where you kind of start looking to the future, right? You start looking to 2025, and that's a good stepping off point for the Giants right now. When you look to everything that's going on in Sacramento, got a lot of intriguing prospects up there in Sacramento. So really quick, just want to get your thoughts. Who has really stood out to you over the course of the year? I know you've had Bryce Eldridge come up in the last week or so. We'll talk about him later, but for the longevity of the season, because a lot of the guys in Sacramento ended up in San Francisco. So you can even pick Tyler Fitzgerald or Elliot Ramos. Like who was someone that kind of just stood out for you in this season?
Gosh, I mean, you go back. I'm looking at my scorebook now, and you go back to the first few games of the year, and I mean, some of the names. Right, you mentioned Ramos, and you mentioned Fitzgerald. Brett Wisely is in there. You have names. Donovan Walton, who just got called up and deservedly so, was in there, and frankly, Donnie is probably going to be named our team MVP this year because of what he meant to the club, and it was just awesome to see him get called up the other day. But those are some of the guys off the top of my head. It's a rotating cast for sure as you get deeper into the season. Like there've been so many guys in and out. Obviously, we have Eldridge here now, and I'm sure we'll touch on him a little bit later. But a guy that really has turned a corner in my mind that I think would be very intriguing for Giants fans is Hunter Bishop.
Yeah.
And he was the guy drafted in 10th overall in 2019. He had to miss some time. Obviously, there was the pandemic. And he had Tommy John surgery, which, of course, is kind of odd for an outfielder, but he needed to have that procedure, so it caused him to miss basically another year. So he's had a lot of time that he's missed and has had very little developmental time. And he is actually, his average has been on the climb. He's got a 250 average in his sights, which I know doesn't sound the sexiest, but I mean, he started off in a pretty bad funk, and he was really a dead pull hitter for a long time. He's starting to come around, use all fields. His pitch selection has gotten better. His timing's gotten better, and his confidence has really, really blossomed here late in the season. So if I'm a Giants fan, I'm keeping an eye on Hunter Bishop right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you start looking to the prospects for the Giants, specifically in the outfield, because you mentioned Hunter Bishop, and I know Eldridge can play out in the outfield. I think he's been used more as a first baseman DH in his development in his early part of his career. But when you start looking at guys like you mentioned, and we'll talk about Elliot Ramos, right? I mean, earlier this week, he hit the very first home run from a right-handed hitter into McCovey Cove. Did you see him having that type of power, that type of just plate discipline for him to translate to the game in Major League Baseball? Did you foresee that when you saw him earlier this year in Sacramento?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I saw it last year in July when the River Cats were in. We had a series in Salt Lake City, and he absolutely tore it up. He just looked like a different animal, and he had a stretch where, he found another gear. And I thought last year it was, kind of a mistake for the Giants not to just let him play out the rest of that season in San Francisco. And who knows, maybe by keeping him, in Sacramento most of the time, maybe it did two things. Maybe it put a chip on his shoulder, one, and maybe it let him develop a little bit more, too. But I thought he was ready to go last year in July. I thought that they had nothing to lose by having him up there, after that stretch that he had, that series in Salt Lake. And it was surprised me that he actually broke camp and was here with the River Cats. So I thought this was long overdue for Ramos. I thought he deserved an everyday opportunity in the big leagues last year. If not, maybe even a little bit before that, but last year in around July, August especially. And I'm so happy that Elliot has had the success that he's had up there and that he's making those waves, I guess. pun intended.
Yeah, man, it's really interesting just to see the path to the major leagues for Elliot Ramos. And as you mentioned, I mean, yeah, he looked like he was taking strides well before his call up. So he didn't break camp with the Giants. He went to Sacramento, continued to grind, and up comes May 8th, right? That's when he gets called up. I believe it was in relation to Jorge Soler landing on the IL. So he comes up. It was all prior to Jung-Hoo Lee's injury, because Jung-Hoo Lee would happen a couple of days later. I think it was the same series against the Rockies, I think, is when Elliot Ramos came in. So Jung-Hoo Lee ends up going down, and then we saw Luis Matos, and he went on that tear and just incredible. So, but when you look at just, he came up May 8th. and he goes to an All-Star game. That just shows just how much drive, how much power that this guy really has, and he's ready to be a big leaguer, and someone that is kind of a little bit. We're still trying to figure out what he is in particular, but Tyler Fitzgerald, I mean, he went on a heater where he was hitting home run after home run after home run, like a 2-week stretch where you just expected him to round the bases night in and night out. Did Tyler Fitzgerald always have that type of pop?
Yeah, he did, and it's shocking, but to some people, but he did. And we had a series and I'm looking for it now. It was toward the end of May. It was in El Paso. Here we are. And he was optioned back, and he went absolutely bananas. This was starting on May 21st, his first game back with us in El Paso. He hit 2 home runs, including a grand slam. And then the next day, he homered in his first 2 at-bats of the game. And then the next day, he homered again. So he homered in 3 straight games upon returning to the River Cats. Then he homered later on in that series, toward the end of that series. And he and I had a talk. We chatted a little bit. I interviewed him for the pregame show, and then we just chatted for a while after that for about 10, 15 minutes. And we were just talking about how it helps him so much to be able to play every day in Sacramento. He had just been optioned back. I actually saw him for the first time at the airport as we're boarding our flight to El Paso, and so we touched base a little bit there. But you never know how a guy's going to handle it when they get optioned back like that. And Fitzy could not have handled it any better. And so we ended up talking in the dugout, and he goes, I'm just grateful that I'm here and that I'm getting to play every day, that I know I'm going to play every day, because one of the hardest things for us to do is to go up to the big leagues and not know what your day looks like, and not get in that mindset first thing when you wake up, not knowing if you're going to be playing or not, and knowing that he was going to play every day and get reps every day. He truly had gratitude for that, and I think it helped his performance. And he even chuckled, like, hitting all those home runs in El Paso. He's like, look, it's hilarious, because some of these balls would have been caught at Oracle. But nonetheless, he's still hitting the ball out of the ballpark at AAA against, really good AAA pitching. And it did not surprise me one bit that Fitzy went on the tear that he ended up going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible to see just the growth from both Elliot Ramos and Tyler Fitzgerald. We did see glimpses of Luis Matos, and hopefully we'll be able to see a little bit of Hunter Bishop down the stretch, or maybe not down the stretch, but at some point going into spring and see what he can be as a big leaguer. But you talk about minor league pitching, you talk about the AAA pitching, right? And a person that is really intriguing, I think that a lot of Giants fans are curious to know where he is in his development, is Carson Whisenhunt. He's someone that was kind of highly talked about in the off season and going into spring training, and he had to deal with, I believe he had some injuries early on in the spring. So and I believe he had some injuries in July or June at some point in the season where he was dealing with, I think it was a toe or something like that. I saw him. He was in San Jose rehabbing. But where is Carson Whisenhunt in his development right now? How's he looking so far in AAA? And do you think that he's more of a top end starter, or is he kind of like in the middle of a rotation?
I think he could be a top 3, maybe even a number 3 starter in the big leagues. I mean, first of all, he's healthy. The toe thing was kind of a weird off the field injury that happened. We were in Salt Lake, and he ended up making his start in Salt Lake, and then it was off the field where he dinged up his toe somehow. I still don't know what it was, but he's just fine. And the thing with Whisenhunt is he's got the feel for a major league changeup, and that's a pitch, especially having worked in A-ball for as long as I did, that's a pitch that they would try and help guys develop at the A-ball level. And guys who did not have a feel for that pitch at that age really struggle to find a feel for a changeup. And you go back to a guy like a Trevor Cahill, you know, that back in 2008, like that was something that Garvin Olson, who's now the Giants bullpen coach, was a Stockton Ports pitching coach back in the day when Cahill was coming up. Like, he harped on him, like, you have to have a changeup. And if you don't have a feel for it, it can be tough. Well, Wiz has an advanced feel for that pitch from a young age because he wasn't allowed to throw a curveball growing up. So he figured he'd had to find another pitch, you know, besides a fastball, and the changeup was it. And what a blessing for him, you know, blessing in disguise. He couldn't throw a curveball back then because now he's a lefty that throws 94 and's got a big league change. So his last outing with us, 5 innings, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, 4 hits. And I think a guy like Whisenhunt who made essentially every start this year other than the few weeks he missed due to that toe injury, he's a testament to what development can and should be. I mean, you know, he's gone through his ups and downs this year, but here he is in his last outing, you know, 5 innings, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts, and he's got all his pitches working for him. I think that there's a lot of promise in that arm.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of promise in his arm and a lot for the Giants organization just as far as the pitching depth that they do have. Someone that kind of came on the scene for the Giants this year was Hayden Birdsong, and you know, a lot of people were talking about him in spring training and just his development, and he's just kind of come up and just done a fantastic job. I don't believe that you saw too much of Hayden because he was in Double-A for most of the time, and I believe he was only in Sacramento for maybe some rehab starts. But how would you compare his stuff, Hayden Birdsong, with a Carson Whisenhunt, just as far as how much their arsenal translates to the big league level?
Yeah, so I mean, stuff-wise, they're kind of different, right? Because Whisenhunt works off the changeup, and that's not quite the script for Birdsong. Hayden, I think, had 2 starts here. I saw him one time because one of those starts that he made, I actually had to go to a wedding, and I rarely miss games, but I had to miss one. So yeah. I can't really
priorities,
speak too much
Zach. Priorities, yeah.
Yeah, you know, how dare I live life? You know, I can't speak too much to Birdsong other than the one time that I saw him. What I can speak to is how much scouts absolutely raved about him. Scouts who saw him, and in particular, there's one scout that's always here who I respect more than any other scout, just because he's got just an unbelievable resume and body of work over the years. And he's like, man, that Birdsong kid, he goes, that's the guy. And he said, stuff-wise, it's off the charts. And our coaches have said the same thing. So, and I saw it for that one outing, and it looked the part for sure. So I think there's a ton of promise in Hayden Birdsong. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him when he struggles at the big league level. Again, you're dealing with a guy that didn't have a lot of time at AAA, and I know it's kind of in vogue to get these guys up there fast now, but you don't underestimate the importance of struggling in the minor leagues as opposed to struggling in the major leagues, where it can really get you. It's a different animal when you're feeling for it in the big leagues, and there's a ton of pressure on you. So, I'm not saying that he's not going to overcome those adversities, but I think it's just going to be an interesting thing to watch with Birdie moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see just the development of all these guys. I mean, the pitching staff or the pitching depth in the organization is really intriguing for Giants fans moving forward, especially with the questions of Blake Snell, if he's going to be sticking around, and just where the starting rotation will sit in 2025. All right, well, Zach, I appreciate you stopping by the podcast today, man. It was a lot of fun, just kind of catching up with everything that's going on in AAA, and yeah, you have plans for the off season. You're wrapping up here.
I think, my first big off-season plan is I think I'm holding the parabolic mics for the Pats-Niners game. Thanks to our guy Mikey Holler. So that's the first big event that I have going on. But I'm going to take October and try and be a good dad, and then in November I start Pacific basketball. We're in the WCC, with the likes of Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and all those schools. So I do play-by-play for Pacific Hoops, and we kick off our season in Hawaii, which isn't going to suck. So I'm looking forward to that first week in November. But I'm gonna try and be a decent dad and husband in the meantime.
Gotta love the grind, and then the first thing that you do in your off time, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go work for Mike Holler. I'm gonna go hold the parabolic mics on the sideline.
That's not work. That's a pleasure trip.
Oh dude, that's incredible. I held the parabolics last year. It was the trouncing of the Dallas Cowboys. So I loved that game last year.
I recall that game very well. Yeah, I'm sure you were thrilled to be down there.
Oh, yeah, man. It was incredible. Well, have a good time on the sidelines. Maybe I'll see you down at Levi's. But, Zach, really appreciate you stopping by, talking ball, and we'll do it soon, man.
Well, anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
And that was the great Zach Bayruti of the Sacramento River Cats, play-by-play voice of the Sacramento River Cats. A lot to discuss there, but you heard it there with the pitching that is coming up for the Giants. What does that mean for contract negotiations with Blake Snell? Is this the final week for the Giants starter? He pitches today. We will discuss on the other side. You are listening to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
All right, welcome back to the Giants warm-up show. As we wrap up here, we're getting close to the start of the official pregame show at 10:10, right, Raph? 10:10. That's where we're at.
That's right. Yeah. First
we're
pitch,
at 10:10.
11:10.
11:10 is first pitch. Yeah, thank you for that. We do have a lineup out for you. We got Blake Snell on the mound, and we'll talk about him shortly. But let's get you this lineup. A lot of the top four did not change at all, so I like that in my notes. So number one, leading off is Mike Yastrzemski in right field. Elliot Ramos is batting second in left field. Lamont Wade Jr., who hit those 2 home runs yesterday, he is at first base in the 3-hole. Matt Chapman, who hit those other 2 home runs, is batting cleanup at third base. So the first 4 guys all homered yesterday. Not Ramos. 3 of the 4 all homered yesterday. Batting fifth is Patrick Bailey. He is behind the dish. Gerard Encarnacion is batting 6th at the DH spot. Grant McCray is batting 7th in center field. Tyler Fitzgerald batting 8th at shortstop. And Brett Wisely is batting 9th at second base. So you have Mike Yastrzemski, Elliot Ramos, Lamont Wade Jr., Matt Chapman, Patrick Bailey, Gerard Encarnacion, Grant McCray, Tyler Fitzgerald, and Brett Wisely. And since we're talking about Matt Chapman, we'll finish up on Blake Snell, who is on the mound today. He opposes Seth Lugo. But since we're talking about Matt Chapman, we always do on Sundays the detailed measurement, right? And typically it's slim pickings for the Giants. But this week they had a ton of home runs, hit 9 home runs on this road trip alone. And the memorable one we were going to go with, honorable mention, Elliot Ramos hitting the first home run into the McCovey Cove, the first right-hander to do so in the first 25 seasons at Third and King. Lamont Wade Jr. hit 2 yesterday, his second time doing so in his career, but you got to go with dad power. You got to go with Matt Chapman.
Pitch to Chapman. He swings, hits a high drive, deep center. Isbell on the move, going back at the track. He leaps. It's gone. And the Giants go back to back. And for Matt Chapman, welcome back. Became a new father just 2 days ago. And showing off that dad power.
And that home run went for 421 feet with a 106.3 exit velocity. And that detailed measurement is sponsored by Abundant Life Weight Loss. Call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. Matt Chapman comes back from the paternity lift and hits not 1, but 2 home runs. And that was his first of the 2, going back to back yesterday with Lamont Wade Jr. So that was an impressive showing from Matt Chapman. And on the mound, we hope to see another impressive showing from Blake Snell. He has been lights out just ever since he came back from the injured list all the way back in June. He's been incredible. He has been incredible, to say the least. But when you look to this start today, and when you look to the rest of this week, because if he starts today, his next game will be, because the Giants have an off day on Thursday, his next game to pitch would be Saturday against the St. Louis Cardinals. That could potentially be his last game with the San Francisco Giants. And what are your thoughts on the Giants potentially going out and spending the money on Blake Snell? Is that something that you are down with? 808 KNBR is the number. That's 415-808-5627 if you want to give me a call and give me your thoughts on Blake Snell, because he has meant so much to this team as far as just having someone out there out beside Logan Webb to go out there and pitch consistently well down the stretch of games. You need to have that for this team, that the formula to winning that the Giants need to get back to is pitching and defense, and he does fit that, right? 408 chimed in on it a little bit earlier when we were having this discussion about Blake Snell. He says, no, we don't need someone like Snell right now. This team is years away from actually beating good teams. Too many holes. I don't want just good enough to get into the playoffs. That is that's a good point, right? I mean, Blake Snell is someone that is going to go to a team, or should be on the radar for a lot of playoff bound teams, or teams that need that extra push. I mean, when you look at the starting rotations around all of baseball, I mean, maybe he won't go to the Dodgers, but when you look to the Yankees could potentially use a guy like Blake Snell down this final stretch of the season, and if they want to go deep into October. So there's a lot of teams that could use the services of a Blake Snell. So you figure, and also looking at the starting pitching market, Blake Snell is by far and above everyone else that is coming out in free agency. I mean, when you look at it, you have tiers, right? If you put it into tiers, Blake Snell is all the way at the top, and then there's a massive gap, and then you have everyone else that is in free agency, in my opinion. So that's going to drive up the price. It's just a matter of, is that needed for this Giants team? And what 408 is saying there is that it's not someone that the Giants need per se right now, because they aren't in that competing mode. So when you look to the Giants and you look to that starting rotation, and you look to all these young guys that are coming up, that's also a factor, right? I mean, how far are these guys from making their mark on the major league club? When you look to Landon Roop, when you look to Carson Wisenhunt, who we heard from Zach Bayruti a little bit earlier, who looks to be a top 3 starter in a rotation, right? I mean, you look to all these guys. You look at Kyle Harrison, who I think that you wished that you saw a little bit more from Kyle Harrison in this second season, but he's someone that is still developing, and as soon as I believe as soon as Kyle Harrison gets that his secondary pitches lined up, I mean, he will be a solid starter. It's just a matter of, is he a top end, or is he kind of in the middle 3 to 5 range? Is he top of the rotation or not? So that's a big question as well. But when you look at all these guys, they are developing. They are developing, and if you bring in Blake Snell and keep him long term, does that end up blocking any of these guys? And then also, I mean, the side effects from having Blake Snell on this roster, maybe some of those guys are on their way out, and trading pitching for hitting it would be a good formula. It would be a good formula. So we'd have to see what ends up happening there. But before we get out of here, let's give you a standings update sponsored by Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. The Giants are playing spoiler once again, and they have shortened the lead of the Royals over the Twins by half a game. So things are getting really interesting there in the American League wild card. The Orioles are at first spot in the wild card, the Royals sitting at second, but the Twins and the Tigers are in the mix as well as the Mariners. So the AL wild card is going to get spicy for sure. And then when you look to the NL wild card, the top of it is the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and then you have the very intriguing matchups of the Mets and the Braves, and they face off for 3 games later this week. Starts on Tuesday. So that is your standings update, brought to you by Alameda County Probation Department. Today, Blake Snell is on the mound for the Giants, opposed by Seth Lugo. We will talk with Joe Rizzo on the other side. We'll head to the booth and see what the weather is looking like at Kauffman Stadium, because there was weather in the forecast. There was rain, but it does look to be letting up a little bit around the scheduled start of the game today, which is first pitch 11:10 here, and we'll have to see how that all plans out going into this game today. Maybe there's a little bit of a stoppage in the early portion of the game, but we will get all that information from Joe Rizzo coming up next. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.